if they do, I won't go, so don't worry about that. No, I hadn't heard anything about it, David. Our thoughts and everything that we do here tonight would be upbuilding to you, Father. We ask these things in your holy name. Amen.
Amen. Please join us in the Pledge of Allegiance. I pledge allegiance to the flag of the United States of America and to the republic for which it stands, one nation, under God, indivisible, with liberty and justice for all. Are there any changes to tonight's agenda?
Mr. Chairman, I'd like to add a brief announcement.
Okay.
Mr. Chairman, I'm going to be pulling item number 5 from consent for discussion.
Okay. Any additional changes?
I was considering pulling item...
Not so much for the TV camera.
Sounded expensive.
Item 6, but I don't know that the gentleman is here on the consent agenda, but I don't think he's here, so...
Do you want to pull it? And if we need to, we can just pass it.
Okay, I'll pull item 6
Pull item
on
5
it.
and 6.
No, just 6.
Well, Heather's pulling 5.
Oh, correct.
Okay, any additional changes? Okay.
Motion to approve with those noted changes.
All right, all in favor?
Aye.
All right, we have one public hearing this evening. It's request board approval to conduct a public hearing and adopt proposed ordinance to extend the local option fuel tax.
Thank you, Mr. Chairman. This item is to have the public hearing to renew your existing 4-cent per gallon local option fuel tax. This is not a new tax, but the gas tax that you currently have in place that funds a large portion of your road department is set to expire on December 31st of this year. In order to renew it and have it continue on January 1st, you need to have this public hearing and consider and adopt the ordinance before July 1st.
Make a motion to conduct a public hearing and adopt the proposed ordinance extending the county's existing 4-cent local option motor fuel tax.
Second.
We have a motion and a second. Are there any citizens? Any discussion from the board?
My only discussion, of course, is that this pays for our road department.
Okay. Ralph Thomas?
Good evening. Ralph Thomas, 637 Hunters Trace. As covered in the agenda, this tax began in 1993 for a period not to exceed 5 years. It was extended in 1998, 2003, and 2007, each time for a maximum of 5 years. As I read the proposed ordinance, I found it odd that it now includes a 30-year extension period. And I think it's important for citizens to fully understand what this means. A 30-year extension period makes it possible for you to take us deeper into debt with loans obligated against projected revenues. I realize that your agenda does not state that you plan to borrow against the tax revenue, but I'm guessing that changing the ordinance is the first step to make that possible. Why else would we need a 30-year extension when 5 years has been acceptable each time in the past? Citizens should also be aware that we are already repaying loans that were obtained against this tax in the past. Not only have we not paid the loans in full, but we have also experienced a decline in the projected revenue collected from the tax. Last year, the revenue was not enough to make the payments. Approximately $400,000 was shifted from the 1-cent sales tax fund, which would have typically been used for paving roads. I hope I am wrong, and you are not planning to take us deeper into debt, and I'm not accusing you of that. I just want to make sure that the citizens are aware of what could happen. It doesn't seem to matter how much money you borrow or how many times you increase our taxes. You never seem to have enough. You keep coming back for more. It's time for us to spend what we have and no more. It's time for us to stop borrowing money that our children and grandchildren will have to repay. It's time for you to stop raising our taxes. It's time. Thank you.
Okay. Any additional comments from the board?
I tend to agree with, I thought of this particular position about borrowing on future income, and I tend to agree with Mr. Thomas. I would like to make the recommendation that we stay with the 5-year. If we've been doing 5 years, I don't see any particular reason to go on beyond the 5 years, because I too do not want to borrow put future debt against income. So I tend to agree with Mr. Thomas on that.
What was the rationale, Heather or David, to instead of 5 years, make it 30 years?
Well, I mean, the agenda item says that 30 years is from the statute, and if the board would like to extend this for less than the statutory 30 years, we were seeking board direction.
I would make a motion.
We currently do not borrow from this fund at all, or use it as collateral.
Do we not have debt?
This is pure operational. This is a purely operational fund.
Okay. I would basically make a motion.
We have a motion.
Excuse me.
I believe we already have a motion.
I don't necessarily have a problem. What do you guys think? Just restricting it to 5 years, I don't know.
I'm fine with that.
That's the way we've always done it. I mean, I'm not responding to one citizen's
No, it doesn't.
whatever, but if we've always done it 5, I don't have a problem leaving it at 5. I mean, we don't bond it anyway.
We don't bond it anyway.
So it doesn't make any difference. I'll amend my motion to make it 5 years.
You want to do 5, 10, 5?
I second that motion.
That's what we've always had.
Okay.
Ms. Arts, do you agree with that, or?
I'm willing to change the second.
It's one of those things, it doesn't really matter. In 5 years, we're more than likely going to renew the tax again, and then 5 years later, renew the tax
Well,
again.
this will give, if nothing else, citizens that maybe are concerned, we
The
can't bond it a 5 year, so it's operational. So
Okay.
it doesn't make any difference.
You made the motion, Commissioner Stewart. Did you consider that friendly?
Ms. Arts.
Sorry, I apologize. All right, any further discussion from the board? You have the change to 5 years versus 30? All right, all in favor?
Aye.
Passes unanimously. Thank you. Item 2 has been tabled to a future meeting. Awards and presentations this evening. Commissioner Arts, would you like to introduce?
Sorry, I figured I better turn off my phone, too.
That was Ms. Art's phone that went off.
I wasn't. Yes, I'm really excited to be able to introduce 2 people to you, and I'd like to bring them up to the podium. As most of you know, the county applied for and received an award for technical assistance, and we have with us technical assistance for Wakulla Gardens. And we have with us the team leader and the project manager for that technical assistance award. So I'd first like to introduce Stephanie Monroe Tillerson. She's currently the city manager for the city of Woodruff in South Carolina, where she supports and advocates for smart codes, sustainable growth policies, and for bikeable and walkable communities. Prior to joining the city of Woodruff, she was the planning director for the city of Spartanburg, the director of Upstate Forever Spartanburg office, and planning director for Lawrence County and the city of Clinton. So she's really a planner by trade. She was also the recipient of the Upstate Forever's Public Servant of the Year Award for her courageous efforts as the first ever director of planning for Lawrence County. She holds a bachelor's degree in public affairs management and a master's degree in urban and regional planning, both from Michigan State University. She also holds a master's degree in public administration from the University of South Carolina. So we're delighted to have her as our team leader, and I know she's been meeting with you. And with her is Tom Bassett, who is the senior program associate at the American Planning Association, which is the the professional organization for planners in the United States. And he's coming to us from Washington, D.C., which is where their office is based. So they're here on an advance visit just to collect information and decide who to bring back as team members when they return in a month or 2. So thank you both. Thank you. Thank you for having us, and we look forward to going back. Thank you.
Thank you all. Ms. Arts, you said you had an additional announcement for this evening?
Yes, I'd like people to put this on their calendars. Tuesday, June 5th from 6 to 8 p.m.
Please join us at an open house at the library. We have a second team of technical assistance team that will be in town that evening. They're with the Sustainable Communities Building Blocks program, and there will be refreshments, a brief presentation on smart growth fixes for rural communities, and discussions related to both the Crawfordville Town Plan and the Big Bend Scenic Byway. So I encourage you to attend. It's open to all interested residents and business owners, especially if you're in Crawfordville or along the Scenic Byway. We'd really love to have you there. That's Tuesday, June 5th, from 6 to 8 p.m. at the library. Thank you.
And I wanted to quickly remind everyone that applications for the Solid Waste and Fire Services Hardship Assistance Program are due by June 1st. So if you are looking to apply for that, make sure you get those in by June 1st. Up next on our agenda is citizens to be heard. We come to that at 6:30. If you'd like to speak at that time or any subject this evening, make sure you filled out one of our cards. You can pick up a card from Katie, and she will, and then turn it back to her. You have to fill out one of these cards to speak this afternoon on any subject. We'll come back to that at 6:30. Next up is the consent agenda.
Motion approved.
We've pulled items 5 and 6. We have a motion to approve.
Second.
We have a second. All in favor?
Aye.
Excellent. Item number 5, which is request board approval to amend the MOU between the University of Florida and IFAS Extension in Wakulla County, which is being pulled by, I think, our county attorney.
Yes. Thank you, Mr. Chairman. We are recommending that you do approve this tonight, but with some modifications. If you look at paragraph B4 of the attachment, what this does is says that the board, as you know, you have the extension office. The board pays for a portion of the salaries for the people who provide services out of that office, and UF pays for the remainder. Paragraph B4, as it's currently written, would obligate the board to pay salary increases for these persons that are approved by UF without giving the board any discretion in the amount of the increase or who is entitled to an increase. And I feel that that unnecessarily binds the board's hands, especially in tough budget times when county employees are also not getting raises. So what I would recommend is that you approve the revised MOU, but remove that language, or insert language that would make it at the board's discretion and after approval by the board.
So you want to strike the entire paragraph 4, or you want to change it?
Well, as it was previously, it says that the board will determine salary adjustments that are applicable to the county's portion of the member's salary. I think that language would be acceptable to put back in.
Yeah, I'll make a motion to approve with those changes as noted.
Okay. Second.
Motion and a second. Any further discussion from the board? All in favor?
Aye.
Passes unanimously. Commissioner Arts, you asked us to pull item number 7, request board approval to adopt a resolution regarding the 2012 fair market rents as published by HUD as the payment standards for the Housing Choice Voucher Program, Section 8.
Yes, please, thank you. And I see that representative from Meridian is here.
Item 6. Sorry. Item 6.
Okay.
Yeah. With the right title.
And thank you for coming
No
this
problem.
evening. When I first read through the item, I saw that we were charging 100% of what are the rates, though we have the option to charge between 90% to 110%. And I had remembered from April 16th meeting when we were informed that the county should be leasing at or about 250 units at an average payment of approximately $312 per month. However, we're currently leasing approximately 119 units, averaging $595 a month. So, I mean, that really made an impression on me that we're paying higher rents than we really should be, and so fewer people are benefiting from our Section 8 housing. So when I saw this item, it seemed to me a good idea to maybe go with the 90% so that we would lower the rents a little bit and serve more people. But in the meantime, I've also received some information about comparisons of rents between 2011, 2012, and they are coming down. So I guess what I'd like from you is an opinion about whether it would be advantageous for us to opt for 90%, or if you feel the 100% is better.
Thanks, Commissioner Hards. Just a bit of background on the payment standards under the Section 8 program. When I brought the report on last month, HUD established a 250 units or 250 vouchers years ago, and it was based on market conditions at that time. Well, since then, market conditions have changed tremendously. So the standard as it relates to CMAP is either the county reaches its 250 unit goal, or it utilizes, I believe, 95 to 100% of its monthly allocation. So the county is meeting its obligation, utilizing its monthly allocation of Section 8 funding. Now, as it relates to, HUD did have a concern that we were overspending, meaning the utilization rate. Now, absent a study, a rent study, which we are embarking on, the county has traditionally used 100% of the fair market rents and adopted those as the payment standard. If you look at the 2012 numbers, which were the newer numbers, they are substantially lower than the 2011 numbers. The issue is if you use 90%, if you take 90% of the new numbers, they're going to be even more lower. The payment standard is a gradual change. It doesn't change overnight. For instance, if you have 120 people on your program, that payment standard is still going to remain the same until such time as it's time for that tenant to recertify. So theoretically, it could be 6 months from now or 9 months from now, depending on when that tenant is supposed to recertify. That's the only time that we really can change the payment standard. Even if you make it effective today, it won't go into effect. It's on a per tenant basis, and that is a HUD requirement. So yes, the county does have the option to take 90% of the fair market value, but keeping in mind it would be a shock for landlords to participate in the programs, as well as a shock to the tenant if we sort of haphazardly made it effective today and changed all of the numbers.
Okay. Then I move to approve to adopt the proposed resolution approving the 2012 fair market rents as published by HUD as the payment standards for the Housing Choice Voucher Program, Section 8.
I'll second it, but I want to talk about it some more. I think you brought up some good points.
Right.
You said the average that the county pays is $597. Is that the number you used?
$595.
It's close.
Yes. On here, the fair market value for a 3-bedroom house is $907. So that means in order for it to average $597, some people must be getting substantially less than that.
That is correct.
And is it dependent on their income and depending on how much? Because this is to give people that can't afford it money to pay rent.
Absolutely. The rule of thumb is that a Section 8 tenant is not supposed to pay more than 30% of their monthly income on rent. And to qualify for the program, you have to be at or below 50% of the area median income. So depending on the matrix of resources, income, so on and so forth, and the household composition, that determines what HUD will pay and also determines what that tenant may have to pay for rent. Now, the payment standard is not the same as rents per se. The payments, we're only adopting the fair market rents based on the American Community Survey. That's HUD's methodology. We're only adopting that as the payment standards. The payment standards can be set anywhere between 90 and 110%, but traditionally the county has used 100% of the fair market rents as its payment standard. Why? Because based on past information, rents were going for those amounts in those areas. Now, we do need to do a rent study.
When do you expect that?
Well, over the next several months, and I've been talking to her to see what's the best methodology to do that. So they're giving me some websites, some folks that do this for a living, and hopefully we can come back to the board as it relates to securing someone that can adequately do that.
Are there people on a waiting list for this money?
Absolutely.
My opinion then is if this is an entitlement program, basically, and if we're in charge of it, I think it should benefit the most people. So I would encourage you to revise it to make it 90%. That would at least, if this thing has to exist, basically, I think we should design it where it benefits the most people. If there's somebody getting $800 a month and this guy's getting zero, why can't this guy get $700 and that guy get something? That's just my opinion.
Well, and that was my thinking initially. That's why I pulled the item. But if I heard you correctly, if we do a rent study, then lower rents can be kind of phased in, whereas if we do the 90%, it's
if you do 90% of the fair market rents,
we may have people losing their rent.
Absolutely. You're going to have landlords that may not participate in the program. Keeping in mind that the lease is between the tenant and the landlord. Now, the landlord is going to charge what they want to charge. Now, yes, the county can say we will not accept that lease, but at the end of the day, if you have no landlords playing ball with the game, then we're going to have a problem.
And this applies to mobile homes, for example.
It does.
So if I had a 3-bedroom mobile home and I was getting $907 a month for it, I'd probably be a pretty happy camper.
That's true, but what we do is we do rent reasonableness.
How many people do you have at the 900 level or above?
I don't think we have very many people. It depends on the household. Now, the payment standard for a 4-bedroom is about $1,047, I believe. That's only a standard. That doesn't mean the rent is there, because theoretically the rent, I've seen them as low as $800 for that 4-bedroom. So it just depends on, the payment standard doesn't equate to a lease. It just means it cannot exceed that amount.
Does each child under Section 8, do they get their own bedroom?
No, sir. And I've seen a lot of that in the program until we've taken over. Now, upon recertification, we have to take a look at that. Depending on the sex, if you have 2 males or a male and female, there are some parameters governing that, some federal parameters, and also the county has its own administrative plan, which it did adopt several months ago, which limits what can be done with the matrix of bedrooms.
So I'm comfortable leaving it where it is, given that they're planning a rent study, and hopefully we'll see rents keep coming down, but if they don't, then maybe the board would want to consider in the future adjusting that. But I sure don't want to see people thrown out of their living quarters because we made a change that wasn't acceptable to their landlords.
If it's phased in, that's fine, but I think you understand my point.
I do.
This is an entitlement program, and at least we should try to make it benefit. If we have to have it, it should benefit the maximum number.
If we wanted to go to the 90% rate, could we start it later in the fiscal year? Or does it have to start effective June 1st, or can we start it January 1st?
You can start it at any time. You're going to have new fair market rents in October again, and so the numbers are going to change again. And so the county, by law, has to adopt those fair market rents. Now, you have the option as to whether to use those fair market rents as your payment standard. Now, I will tell you, as a result of some of the due diligence that we've done at Meridian, we are going to put an additional 12 to 15 people on the program, because we have cut down on bedroom size. We have cut down on the misuse of rents. We have cut down on household compositions and what we would allow. So over the next month, we are adding an additional 12 to 15 people to the program.
And I think if you, and I can pass this down, if you compare to what these fair market rents were for 2012 compared to 2011, the 1-bedroom, the studio came down from $639 to $571. Right. So they are coming down with the approach they're taking. I think we just need to keep heading in that direction.
Okay.
Well, I'm with Randy. I think it can only go down if the landlord agrees to. He can say, I don't want to rent, and it's not going to go down. I mean, he's going to try to go out and find somebody else that'll rent it that's not.
That is a decision that has to be made by the landlord. That is correct.
I mean, I've been complaining for a long time up here about these high rates. I know I can take you to one right now that gets about $1,100 a month for a single wide trailer. It's not right. And the only way we're going to stop it is if we do this 90%, do the study, and start forcing these landlords to take less money, because they're going to take it because it's a sure paycheck for them. They're not going to deviate from this handout, if you will, because this is a sure paycheck.
Would you be comfortable with it starting January 1st? Because that would give them 6 months to transition.
That's fine. I think we got to take some measure. I'm like Randy. We got to do something to move in that direction to lower this.
Well, I think you're making a good point. I just worry
people get served.
I wouldn't want somebody to end up not having a house on 1 month's notice.
But on that same note, Alan, if somebody's in a $1,100 single wide trailer, somebody's out there living in the back of their car because they can't get this.
That was my point.
You know, that's.
I understand. No worry.
So I think we need to. I'm fine with that if that's what the board wants to do.
I'm open to amending it to what you're proposing.
January 1st? Would January 1st be okay?
Yeah.
Commissioners, if I may, the fair market rents will change in October of this year again. So at that time, it would be my recommendation to revisit the fair market rents at that time. Now, adopting these payment standards, it clears up the CMAP concern 8 of the skating review the county had back in September. So this will clear up that concern. However, in October of this year, HUD is going to republish the rents. They may go up or down.
I think, though, our point is, it doesn't matter if they go up or down.
Mm-hmm.
The point is, the 90% still allows us to distribute it to more people. It wouldn't matter to me if instead of 620, it was 320. It wouldn't matter to me. It was the percentages. It benefits more people if you use the 90%. That was my point.
It does. It will.
I don't want to talk about the guy who is receiving the 1,100. The problem I have is with the government giving the 1,100.
Commissioner, I understand your concern. The issue is going to be when we have the federal parameters in front of us, we're limited as to what we can do. So if all of the documentation point towards, it's only based on their household income. Now, you do have those that try to abuse the system. So there are safeguards in place, or there should be safeguards in place, which we are utilizing to make sure that they're not abusing the system.
This is federal.
This is federal. This is not state.
Not county taxpayers' dollars been spent on subsidized rent. We are administering an entitlement program for the federal government, basically, and I think we should try to benefit as many people as possible.
Absolutely.
I agree. Would you recommend that we postpone reducing it to 90% till October? Would that be a better date than January, or?
I would recommend that, Commissioners, and I tell you what, right now, even adopting the current payment standards, it's probably not going to impact that many people between here and October, because it's a phased-in approach, and you won't have that many people recertifying within this period of time. So I would wait or recommend wait on the new numbers. If the commission chooses to take 90% of the new numbers or whatever you choose to do, that would probably make more sense to be effective in January 2013.
Well, and I think we're all on board for 90%.
Okay.
No matter, I think Randy's point doesn't matter what the amount is.
Absolutely.
So I think January 1st is. I think that's just a good time for people to move in schedules too.
Okay.
Is that everybody?
That's my motion.
Hold on. So you're going to have a because you have to adopt something for now. So
Right
you're
now
adopting 100% for now and 90%, but you're going to have to adopt 90% of these numbers because you got to adopt numbers. So if you're going to adopt 90% of something, it's going to be of these numbers. You can revise that in October, but is that going to be an acceptable way to have a step?
Well, my recommendation is to adopt 100% right now. When October comes, adopt the 90% to be effective in January 2013.
whatever the new numbers
or
are.
whatever the new numbers are at that time. So we will revisit this issue whenever the new fair market rents are published.
Can you notify the landlords and the tenants that?
Absolutely.
Because the whole point of this is a heads up, so.
And we're going to do that now. If the board adopts these new fair payment standards, we're going to notify all tenants and landlords of when this will go into effect.
And also please notify them in your notification that we're looking at going to 90% level in January.
Will do.
So that they have that
Heads up.
month's notice that we're coming. Okay?
Okay. So does the original motion stand then with an amendment to notify them that we'll be going to 90% in January?
I think that.
October?
I think,
October, right.
what I hear is the motion just needs to be simply 100% of what they're recommending now.
Right. That was the
Period.
first motion I made.
Come back in October, it'll be back on the
Okay.
agenda again. We'll
Absolutely.
revisit.
Put them on notice that we're going to make it 90%.
Make a 90% change, and I'll do that with the notice that we're going to send out within the
I
next
think
couple of
your
weeks.
point earlier was there's not enough people coming in and out of the system between now and October
That
to
is
really
correct.
benefit someone else anyway.
That is correct.
Okay, that's fine.
So we have a motion and a second? All in favor?
Aye.
Passes unanimously.
Thank
Thank you.
you.
No problem.
Thank you, Ms. Hart.
Thank you. We have no planning and zoning items this evening. The general business first up this evening is requesting board consideration of a short-term plan to provide infrastructure improvements to Wakulla Gardens. County Administrator David Edwards will be coming up to the podium.
Thank you, Chairman. This agenda item is being presented to the board for discussion and consideration of
One
a short...
second. I apologize, David. If anyone would like to speak to this item or any item this evening, make sure you filled out a card and turn it into Katie in advance. I'll give you like 2 minutes to get those cards in if you want to speak on the item regarding Wakulla Gardens. If you have not turned in a card, you will not have the opportunity to speak today. Sorry, thank you.
Sorry. This item is being presented tonight to the board for discussion and consideration of a short-term plan to remedy one of the many long-standing issues with regards to infrastructure improvements in this densely populated portion of Wakulla County. This is a thorough yet high-level analysis of a number of such viable policy options that could be acted upon should the ballot results favor moving forward with an assessment for infrastructure improvements. Should the board wish to pursue any of these policy options, that direction may be provided to the staff, to the staff, and additional analysis and action steps will be brought back to further board implementation at a future date and by future agenda items. A little touch on history. As y'all, many of the folks in here, I'm sure they're from Wakulla Gardens, they well understand the slide there with the roads and the flooding. Much of it came from Hurricane Faye. So to alleviate that problem, the county back in January 25th, 2010 approved a FEMA grant to spend $459,000 to put gravel on the roads in Wakulla Gardens, 57 stone primarily. That job was accomplished with assistance $65,000 in labor from ESG. Since then, that has alleviated the flooding problems, but it has caused an additional problem, or an unforeseen problem, which is the road dust that they're currently going through out there. A little past on the cost of the cost for providing infrastructure at Wakulla Gardens. It would cost approximately $30 to $40 million to provide a comprehensive infrastructure needed in Wakulla Gardens in today's dollars. This would include road paving, stormwater, sewer, sidewalk, street lighting, etc. Financially, Wakulla County is not in a position to fund this project now nor in the future. Even if Wakulla dedicated all the current available funding in sewer, roads, and stormwater countywide, it would take additional millions of dollars to meet the needs of one community. With that in mind, staff has worked diligently to identify outside sources of income in the form of grants, legislative appropriations, and other revenues to help offset the cost. Staff has met with various state agencies, our local
legislative delegation, Congressman Sutherland, Senator Nelson, his office, to ask for their help in resolving the issues that plague Wakulla Gardens. Unfortunately, this time, nor at any time in the foreseeable future, there will not be any free money grants available. All the grants available that we can find are substantial matching grants. As a result of this research and analysis, staff has determined that the number one issue, as everyone in Wakulla Gardens can tell you, is the conditions of the roads. Staff realizes that the natural order of infrastructure improvement priorities in similar projects such as this are sewer, water installation, stormwater, then we pave the roads and put sidewalks in. However, realizing the impossibility of meeting the infrastructure needs due to the lack of funding, staff decided to narrow the focus to paving roads first. This would alleviate the most pressing infrastructure improvement concern for residents. To move forward, our short-term plan. The current plan right now for our short term is to pave all of the roads within Wakulla Gardens. The estimated cost at this point in time in today's dollars, realized based upon the price of oil, which directly impacts the price of asphalt, the current estimated cost is $5.2 million. Of that, 4.2 is for paving and $1 million is for stormwater improvements. This would be stormwater improvements within the existing right-of-ways. How we're going to pay, what the plan is currently, we will send out, if the board approves it, send out a ballot survey July 2nd that will send out to each one of the lot owners in Wakulla Gardens asking them yes or no. Do you want to have your roads paved or not, and agree to be assessed? The current assessment value is set at anywhere between $190 to $236 based upon available financing and the years, either financed at a 15-year or at a 20-year note. We've currently checked these numbers with two financial institutions, and these numbers are within the range of today's dollars. The survey would be due back on July 31st. If we move forward at that point in time, if it's positive, we'll send a letter out for consolidating lots within Wakulla Gardens. That will give the citizens roughly about 3 months to consolidate lots, meaning if you have two lots together, you can pull them. If you want to pull them together to build one house, you can go ahead and pull it together and get assessed one assessment. That process will stop on December 3rd, and once that role is established, at that assessment at that point in time, that assessment doesn't change. Because we have to stop that to make sure that we divide that number into the $5.2 million. Moving forward, we will come back. That's the short-term plan. That alleviates the existing dust problem, the flooding, and it takes care of minimal stormwater. It should help, as well as it has the potential in the future to naturally help with some of the property values within Wakulla Gardens. The long-term solution. I will be coming back to the board in another meeting, probably in August, to discuss the long term. But we have to fix the problems, and moving forward, we have to have money to fix those problems. And our formulation in the long-term plan will be that the citizens of Wakulla Gardens, the money will actually be generated from there, not anything extra necessarily, but it will be used, the money benefited will be a direct impact and be directly put back into the Wakulla Gardens. And a couple of things that we're discussing is a CRA, community redevelopment area. If we establish a CRA within the corridor of the Smith Creek corridor, this would realize the property owner, as you may or may not know, would not realize any difference in their taxes. Just as the value of your property increases, that money would come into the CRA and be spent right there within that corridor area. So therefore, it's not the county's tax level is set, and anything over and above that tax level, the citizens of Wakulla Gardens would realize. The other thing that we're looking at potentially is a 1-cent sales tax, breaking off our portion, the Wakulla Gardens portion of the 1-cent sales tax, which is about 2.7%. Break that off and every year pull that in there. That's about a $28,000 a year pull in. That would go into a fund, and what this fund would be is, and that and other mechanisms that we can think of between now and then, this would allow us to have a pool of money to match grants, to move forward different initiatives, planning initiatives, because many of the grants that you got now are either 25%, 15% grants, 10% grants, such as a CDBG that we can utilize to bring sewer into Wakulla Gardens if need be, or when that time comes, and that comes with you have to spend $50,000 to qualify for it to get the plans, then that's a $750,000 a year grant that we can move forward. Therefore, but that, like I say, the long term, we'll be coming back to you on that. What we're requesting at this point in time is for the board to approve us to go to send the ballot out July 2nd for requesting the property owners within Wakulla Gardens to ask for their opinion as to which way they would like to go.
I'll make a motion to authorize release of the ballot survey and schedule a short-term plan for Wakulla Gardens workshop for July 12th, 5 p.m.
Second. We have a motion and a second. Danny, before you leave, I just wanted to, when you say minimal stormwater, you mainly mean, what do you mean by minimal stormwater?
What our plan is one of the things that we've done is what's happened is one of the unexpected impacts has actually helped the stormwater situation, other than we haven't had any rain. But the building up of the roadbed is actually stabilized, and putting the rock on it has stabilized the roadbed. Therefore, we're realizing some ditches. What we would do is, especially in the undeveloped areas where we can, is reestablish a ditch section. And that ditch section, we would actually make it a little wider than normal, as well as a little deeper, and actually take the culverts up so that we're utilizing the existing road structure as small stormwater ponds. The purpose is to try to slow the stormwater down as it gravitates down to one of the many basins, the closed basins within Wakulla Gardens, so it has an opportunity to percolate out as it goes, versus before it would rain and it went straight down to the bottom. So that's the purpose of and what we would do with the stormwater. In the future, our stormwater, ultimately to fix a stormwater problem, there we will need to acquire lots to build stormwater ponds. That's another thing that this fund will do, is actually the fund will actually be able to purchase properties and create parks, create stormwater facilities that'll help fix the overall problem.
I got two questions for David, if I could. Number one, is there a way to split this survey into, there's 5 units in Wakulla Gardens. Is there a way to split it by units? Just, let's say, I don't know what unit is what. Let's say Unit 1, most of the people live in Unit 1, 2, or 3 don't want it. But if you excluded their vote, then everybody else would come over the threshold.
Each ballot will have that unit on it, and we're going to, in turn, evaluate it that way as well.
And let's speak about the driveway culverts real quick, just so everybody has as much information as possible. If the county determines they need a driveway culvert and they don't have one, the homeowner will have to install that driveway culvert.
Yes, that is correct. Yes.
And I would assume if we're doing swale blocks as much as possible, there probably won't, the purpose of the swale block is not to have a culvert to flow the water through, but rather to dam it up. But could we require them, the homeowner, to put in some sort of, I don't know, concrete something, just so as a spillway, basically, so that it doesn't erode the driveway, which the county is responsible for maintaining?
We will come up with a detail once we dive into. That's one of the questions that we've asked Alan, and we'll actually come up with a detail for that.
You can design a head wall and a culvert across where it has a spillover.
Right.
But that would be a huge help.
That would be a huge help.
Any other questions for David? If we move this forward and it fails, what do you anticipate happening next?
Well, as far as road paving, this is the based on all the funding sources, where we're at within our budget in the county, and there's no way in the world we can possibly pave the roads at Wakulla Gardens in the near future. There's just no way, unless we were to divert all of our county assets for 5 years over to Wakulla Gardens, which we can't do that, or longer. The only other option would be to go with the long-term plan, but you're talking long-term plan based upon paved roads within a CRA would raise about $1.2 million in 30 years. So it becomes tough. And we could do it, but it's going to be years out, years and years and years out.
From what you're saying, it sounds to me like 150 years out.
It could be a while, but the problem is just the funding sources have dried up, and/or the funding sources require a substantial match that are out there.
Okay, thank you. Would you like to hear from the citizens, or would you like to discuss before we hear from the citizens?
I'd like to hear from the citizens.
All right. John Schuff?
John Schuff, 87 Tupelo Drive. I just wanted to commend Dave and the whole staff for working out a solution to Wakulla Gardens, or beginning to work out a solution to Wakulla Gardens. Was a member of the Infrastructure Committee 4 or 5 years ago, and we came up with pretty much a holistic approach to everything. It's a little different from what David's trying to do, but he's trying to get it implemented, and that's, it's easy to sit back in the room and try to think of ways to do it, and hard to actually get it done. I just wanted to emphasize that one of the things that we felt was really important is that we do follow through with that complete plan for dealing with sewer and stormwater and water out there, all systems, and preferably before you start doing your paving, because if you start doing your planning and you start coming up with things, little caveats pop up that you maybe didn't think. That's the reason for planning. But just, and I think one of the things that sidelined us before was where the county was in the process of designing a Cadillac sewer system for Wakulla Gardens, a gravity feed system that was extremely expensive, and I just feel like that was such a huge burden on the overall plan that it just brought it to its knees. And here we are 5 years down the road dealing with harder stormwater ordinances to try and implement the plan. So, but yeah, just want to commend y'all on what you're doing, and we just need to figure out a way to make something work out there. Thank you.
Thank you, John.
Thank you. Pamela Joy?
Commissioners and county administrators. I also want to thank you for your efforts and for continuing to try to fix this. When I bought my house 8 years ago, of course, my realtor told me that the roads would be paved in a couple of years. And I think that what's been happening is we've been trying to do everything. And, the sewers, and of course, ideally, if we had all that money, that would be what we would do. But we don't have the money to do everything. And I just want to say that I think this is actually a plan that could work. And I will support the assessment. I mean, I'm at the lower end of income as far as people that live there. There are many people that have 2 incomes in the family. But I will support the assessment of roughly $200 a month. And
Here.
yeah, I mean, this could work. This is actually a good plan, and I can make that. I can make that money, and I will also encourage my neighbors. I know a lot of people out there. I'm going to do everything I can to encourage my neighbors also to support this plan. I don't care if I have a sidewalk or not. I'd love to have a paved road, and so I again appreciate your efforts, and I'm going to do everything I can to support it as well. Thank you very much.
Thank you.
Oh, one more thing. The speed limit, I've been told, these are just minor things, but the speed limit I've been told is 25. I have no clue what the speed limit is because in my neighborhood, it's not posted anywhere. And I would like to see that posted. I'd like to see some enforcement of it because that's part of the dust problem. And I'd also like for the school buses to be told that they can't fly through there because they're part of the problem. But anyway, that's just minor things. We have bigger issues, but thank you so much.
Another portion of the program, the paving, is that we are going to go ahead and install traffic calming is priced into that as well.
Good.
For each and every road.
Good.
Brunel and Kelly? I know I had some citizens I was talking to in the gardens, and they had expressed concern about people just start driving faster. So that's good news.
It's Bryn Kelly, 33 Beeler. This goes to Mr. Moore. I sent you an email last week talking about the chip seal pavement. Do you remember that email? Okay. I did a little research about this. I know money's a big issue. I've been in Wakulla Gardens for 6 years. We've been talking about this for 6, 7 years. Same thing, different commissioners, same thing. We've talked about, we need action. Dust is a problem. If a lot of you don't know, you can Google this, you can go on internet, it's been on WBC TV, there's 2 sections about it. Chip seal, about the dust problem actually on the news segment, but the chip seal, I've researched this. I come from a small county in Texas. We use this chip seal. What it is basically the base rock that's already down, so we're halfway there. We can use this to pave the road. What they do is they use an oil and a small layer of asphalt and the base rock, and they use this about 2 or 3 layers. This saves about $2 million. So we're looking at $5 million, correct, for the pavement? $5 million, so $4 million, $5 million. We can cut this to about $2.5 million. So that's an idea that I want the commissioners kind of think about because there are a lot of small counties, rural places, just like Wakulla Gardens, that are having the same issues. Dirt roads, no money, what do we do? And this process has been used throughout the United States. Actually, we went to Centerville, the conservatory place out this weekend. They had one of the roads that was rock, and they did the chip seal. You can tell the difference between asphalt and chip seal. So please look into it. It is an idea that can definitely save the taxpayers and also get the ball rolling. It's a quicker process and a lot cheaper. And like I said, I want to see something done. 6 years and this rock is killing us. Literally, people are getting sick. One of the residents here just said that school buses going down. If you've ever been down these roads, look, I have 3 school buses that come down my road in the mornings. Horrible. Now, I understand that we're in a drought, but we need to do something now. We can't talk about this for another 6 years down the road. I understand the money situation. I know there's dollars going out, but we need to do something now. Thank you.
Mike McKenzie?
Good afternoon. Pretty much I had a whole list that I was actually going to talk about, but it seems a lot of people have actually already addressed pretty much everything I was going to say, so I'm just going to kind of feed on that stuff. The speeding problem is a major issue in terms of dust, with the fact that we haven't had hardly any rainfall. The rain that we did get the past couple of days, or a couple of days last week, it actually did minimize the dust for just a couple of days. But of course, since temperatures are reaching 90 degrees and so on and so forth, I mean, it's just extremely bad out there. You drive down the road, and I know that the email that I sent out last year to you all, March 26th of 2011, I personally invited each one of you to my house so you can actually see. Not a single person took me up on that offer. None of you live out there, so I don't think that you actually know what we're dealing with. So with the dust problem, I mean, something really has to be done. And I think that, I don't know how many people here are from Wakulla Gardens, but I don't think that people would feel as passionately about it if you didn't actually know what was going on. So the traffic problem, the speeding, just last night there was a car. I live in the middle of Chickat Trail. there was a car driving down the road literally at about 70 miles an hour. Now, you figure 70 miles an hour on a gravel road, one, it's unsafe because it increases your stopping distance, and two, there was a wall of smoke, literally. The school buses, WCTV was out at my house today, saw 2 school buses go by filming it, wasn't speeding or anything, but I mean a wall of dust. So really, please take my invitation. Sweet tea on everybody. Lawn chairs. Sit out there, inhale it. All you want to do. All right? Because seriously, we have to. We can't even open the windows. It's a quality of life issue, really. So I'm definitely in favor of the, the $190, $200, whatever increase or whatever. My only question with that, though, you're talking about financing it over 15, 20 years. Is this going to be considered a second mortgage on homeowners? What if, down the road we decide to sell our house? How's that going to affect, the sale of our house? Stuff like that. So that's questions that I'd like to see answered also. Thank you.
Just to answer your question, let me answer this question right here. It's a lien on your house. I lived in Brook Forest. We did the same thing. You have to pay it off when you sell the house.
It's not, no.
Stays with the property.
Well, it's totally different than my bad.
Once it goes onto the tax bill, if it's $200 per year for 15 years, that $200 would be a lien on your property for that year. That portion would have to be paid off. But if you sold your property, the next year's installment would run with the property, and so forth and so on.
Okay, I apologize. But you do have the option to pay it all off up front if you want to.
Yes, we will be allowing prepayments.
It's a localized MSBU.
Okay.
Ron Paisaki?
Mistake.
Worries. We did always totally different then. This is what we've done with your neighborhoods now.
Ron Paisaki, 137 Royster. I applaud all the staff for all the hard work they've done. As John Schuff said, and Commissioner Stewart was working with us on the infrastructure committee, and Commissioner Merritt when he was back doing Cleve's job. One reason I want to come tonight because I looked at the estimated cost figures, and I looked at what we were looking at, and there's a world of difference. But I've talked with Cleve tonight, and he explained something, and maybe it didn't come out clear in David's conversation. We had an estimate about 4 years ago to pave the roads of $7 million, not $4 million. And the price of asphalt has gone up significantly. The way Cleve is explaining it, though, that was a contracted out price. What they're proposing to do is using county labor to do this. So that's how you get down to that figure. And so I think it's important for everybody to know that that's how you're going to arrive at it. Now, in doing that, under their current contract, there may be some things that Cleve's not going to be able to do, so you need to offset that cost. We had a cost estimate of $2 million for stormwater. And then the county has spent hundreds of thousands of dollars on doing the design for the sewer system and had a complete stormwater survey done there. Administrator Edwards indicated there are lots to be purchased, so somewhere down the road you've got another at least $2 million, because I think there were like 250 lots that were recommended to be purchased for stormwater retention. So that's a future cost on stormwater you have to address. Also came up about culverts. And Kathy Shira, which I think you all know, and Randy was on our committee, brought it up to us, is that the county used to require, when you build a house, you had to put a culvert under. Well, there's culvert to go where? There was no stormwater drainage. So they didn't require it anymore. But she estimated to put a culvert in is going to cost about $1,500. So you've got another $1,200-1,300 of those out there. So that's another cost somewhere on stormwater that you're going to have to look at. The CRA came up, and I just gave Administrator Edwards a DVD of Commissioner Brindler's, had a workshop, what was 2008? In July, had 150 people in here. And he was promising then that all the homeowners would get parks and sidewalks and all that at no extra cost to them. Well, the problem was, in those days, the cost to do everything was like $25 million. Now you're talking $48 million. Maybe some less with in-house labor. The problem we had and citizens we talk to is that is a good program to have if you're constantly having new development come in and the value of houses are going up. But if that had gone in 8 years ago, construction has slowed down, houses have devalued. So what happens? You still borrowed all this money to do it, and you're not going to get the money coming from the CRA. So then where does it fall back on is the citizens of the rest of the county. And neither our committee nor citizens we talked about were willing to subsidize property owners, because there's half of the properties aren't developed, so why are we going to use taxpayer money to double or triple the value of an empty lot? And then the people living there would benefit. So it came back more, the recommendation would be something like you're talking about, an MSBU tied in with that property. So again, I applaud you, and again, I applaud the workshop, and it's obviously desperate something to get done. The other concern on paving first, as all your engineers will tell you, normally you put your sewer in and pave over it. If you don't, then your cost of putting sewer in are going to be increased, because you're going to have to run connection lines underneath the road to connect to the other side. So keep that in mind when you're looking for sewer. Thank you very much.
Okay, thank you. Our last person to speak on Wakulla Gardens. Oh, we have two. Okay, no more cards after. Thank you. Tammy Hornbecker.
As I did last time, I wrote everything down, but I was able to scratch out a lot of it. Thank you so much for what you're proposing and trying to do. We really do appreciate it. And Mike, wherever he is, I did invite them out to my house a couple weeks ago, maybe. Alan came out. Lynn said she wanted to, but she was unable to. Mike has been out in our neighborhood, and he actually brought Sutherland out, Mr. Sutherland out to see. So some of them have been out and seen what was going on out there. We do have a concern, and I did put this in an email, and several of you did respond, that with this being an election year, that when this starts out and we get new commissioners in, for those that aren't running again, is there going to be a possibility that we're going to be put on the backside again? Could that be voted that this just isn't worth it, that we're not going to count for much, and it just be tabled again? I've gotten a lot of emails from people since we've started doing this push that have been around for a long time, the 6, 7, 8, 9 years, that has said they've seen things come and go. They've seen things get approved, grant money be placed for it, but then it go away, or the grant or the surveys get done and then nothing proceed after that. So that is a major concern of ours as well. But thank you for this.
And last speaker, Connie Savage.
First thing I want to know is...
Pull that mic down. Thank you.
Is why you put the lime rock out there before you asked the people out there, or did any research whatsoever? Because there's plenty of research out there that tells you it's not going to work. Not in that big of subdivision with that many people, every 50 foot. I mean, it's out there. It's just as simple as putting in GOV dot lime rock dust, and you'll see where other counties are in such a mess over one road, 2 roads. Now we've got 22 miles of road.
We don't engage in conversation, ma'am.
And like she said, yeah, it's been promised before. We went through all this with the septic tanks. It went away. Now it's not a problem. After I talked with several commissioners, they decided that septic tanks is not an issue, but it's still an issue, because you've got the aquifer, and it wouldn't surprise me if half the wells out there now are contaminated. If you went from well to well, I got a feeling you would end up condemning a lot of it. So we're just going to throw that to the side, or are we going to still address the sewer along with the dirt roads? And I sent Mike Stewart a copy of where the government had done a thing on the roads and stuff, and then also some of the other counties, if you go out there, you'll see where they've already tried to fix it with different things like the calcium chloride and all, and it's just a temporary fix for a few months. More money wasted. And I believe that, 77 years of taxes, we should have some kind of infrastructure already there. I mean, there's nothing that the county has supplied out there other than grading the roads, bush hogging for a few years, and when they bush hogged, they only did a few of the roads. They didn't do every road, only the ones where people lived. So I just feel like we've not got anything for our tax dollars out there, and that I don't think we should have to pay extra for the roads when the rest of the county's not paying extra to get roads. I mean, we've paid tax dollars, some people, for up to 77 years, because there's still a lot of lots out there that the original owners that originally purchased them when it was subdivided own them. And I just feel like we've got nothing for our tax dollars. I mean, it takes 45 minutes for an ambulance to get out there. It continuously, I've had 10 windows broke out of one house, 2 in another, and 1 in a shed, and a building broke into. And the Sheriff's Department hasn't arrested anyone. Every time I talk to a commissioner, they say, well, the Sheriff's Office gets this percentage of your dollars. We're not getting anything out there for our dollars. And I think that the commission should have did a little more research instead of right before election time jump out there and sling some rock out and then run around politicking the same day. And it was put out on Saturdays and Sundays, so somebody's paying overtime. And that was right before election, and I know for a fact that Kessler had a little piece of paper that's bragged about getting the rock. But then after I talked with each one of the commissioners, they said they agreed on the rock.
Thank you, ma'am. Okay. Commissioner Moore would like to talk.
Yeah. Basically, the gentleman who was talking about chip and seal Cleve, wake up over there in the corner.
Public Works Director Cleve Fleming, can you please come to the microphone? I looked into that, Jerry, when I had Cleve's job.
Yeah, we've looked at that too.
Yeah.
Yeah, we looked at it.
It's more of a temporary. I mean, it's much better than a dirt road, but I looked at it when I had Cleve.
Well, I guess we should answer the gentleman's question, so tell us about chip and seal.
Well, we've looked at it, but with the material that we put in, we put the lime rock 57 stones now because we weren't given an option to say pick the best material and put on these roads for the grant. We were given a dollar amount, and that's the only thing we could make fit into the dollar amount. We always intended on incorporating this 57 stone into the existing road base because you have such unsuitable material out there for roadways. And what we've learned is as we stabilize the roads, the profile of the road stays in place now, and we're developing swells, and don't anticipate as much flooding as we've had out there in the past. But the 57 stone that we have out there is too loose. It will not compact tight enough for shifting seals. So we've been in contact with a company that does the chip and seal, but it's just for the high volume of traffic out there and the cost, the best way to go is the putting the lime asphalt paving down.
Cleve, isn't there a plan, I'm sorry, Jerry, David, you and Cleve and I, to go out there and mix that?
We're mixing it now.
We're mixing it right now.
So you're several roads done.
We're incorporating it now, and that was always the plan.
Okay, I don't know if we're wetting it or not.
Does that solve the dust problem somewhat? Okay, then.
The dust, unfortunately, when we mix it, we're mixing it to a depth where there's no moisture, and we're bringing up dry material.
Okay. I have one other. This is sort of a funny question, and I don't know. Is there any possibility of a speed device for a dirt road? Is there ever a way of, because the primary, I know it's a silly question. It's not a silly question if there happened to be one. It would be a good question.
Put a hump in the road, that's all the speed.
Is there anything that we could do to slow the let's just say the buses down? Okay. All right. That's good. That's all I need on that. But I grew up, for you folks in Wakulla Gardens, I grew up on a dirt road. I couldn't see our barn across the street when the bus came by. My mother would clean the house one day, and there'd be a layer of dust the next day. And I remember that so much. She could never ever have a clean house. It just was not available, and I'm so sorry for that. I did get with David and Louie maybe 3 weeks ago, 4 weeks ago or sometime, and I said, I don't really care. You've got an ideal solution which puts sewer and retention ponds and water. You got an ideal solution for all that. But the people in Wakulla Gardens are not looking for an ideal solution. They're looking for something, number one, that will stop the dust. They can go to sewer and septic and retention ponds at some other point in time, but do something, put some pavement out there some way, and get some dust stop. You may not be able to pave it all. You may be able to pave loop roads, but my vote is we do something. We start something, and it may not be ideal, but the first thing we're going to start is paving, in my opinion. And I told David today, and for whatever reason it is, going forward, I will not vote for any road in Wakulla, any county road in Wakulla, to get any pavement until Wakulla Gardens get pavements. That's the way I will vote. If there's a road that wants to be paved in Wakulla, for whatever reason, it's not going to go until I get something done in Wakulla Gardens.
Mr. Brock, can I comment on back to the what was it called, chip and seal? We did that years ago on a road, Casora Drive. We tried it, and I thought it was the best thing since sliced bread. They came and sold it, and it was cheaper, and we did it, and it didn't last any time. In fact, we had to go back and put a hard surface over it. It acted as a good base, which we do have there now with the 57 rock. So we have tried the chip and seal in the county, and it just didn't work. And that's about the same volume of traffic on that road as y'all would have in Wakulla Gardens. So I just wanted to say that we have done that. We've looked at it, and for the long haul, if you're going to pay to do it, then let's do it right and get you something that's going to last for 20, 25 years before you got to worry about resurfacing. The other part I want to make sure the citizens understand is that this assessment is, we're going to go out with a ballot, and I want you to be able to think clearly about how it's going to impact you, and the benefit from it, because I think that's important. Is that this amount we're talking about, somewhere between $190 to $236 a year for 15 to 20 years. That's what you're going to be self-assessing yourself, and it'll be on your tax roll. Now, that's per lot, and we're going to give you an opportunity, if you have 3 or 4 lots together, that you can combine those lots into one and only pay one assessment. We're going to give you that opportunity to be able to do that. So you'll want to take advantage of that. But more importantly, this is the only mechanism that we have to get your roads paved. And I'm sad to say that, but that's the truth. So you got to think seriously about what you're entering into here. I would encourage you to do it. I was just talking to Randy offline here. When we did his road, when he lived over in Brook Forest, the assessment there was about $300 or $400 a year per person, per household, just to do that little loop in Brook Forest. If you've ever been in there, that's not but about 3 miles of road. At the most, yeah. And so this, I don't want to say it's a good deal, but this certainly, because there's so many people in there, so many lots, it's a better deal for you because it gets split up by more people, obviously. So I want to encourage you, and I'll be glad to. I've told David that I want to hold some town hall meetings if it takes that to help educate all the people in Wakulla Gardens, because I know that there's only a few of you here tonight, and you'll go back and talk to your neighbors, but there'll be a lot of people left out of the loop that need to understand what this impact is and what you can gain from doing this. And I think this is a wonderful way to do it, and we'll get your roads paved quickly as the money starts to become available, we'll do the most traveled roads first, and then we'll move to other roads that are less traveled. But understand that, and I want to make one comment about the rock. I voted for the rock too. I think we all did. And the point is that we had such a mess out there, and you folks who have lived there any time, you saw how deep the water was. I threatened when I was a chairman to let's hold a county commission meeting out there on a Monday night so everybody could see what you guys were living in. And we've gone from that to now at least having you high and dry. Yes, we created another problem, but you know what's better? And I think what we got now may be a little better. I know I don't have to live out there in the dust, and I thank goodness for that. But the bottom line is that we're trying to head in the right direction to get you guys fixed, and I think we're making a concentrated effort to do that. We've asked people to come in here from outside. These folks that we introduced earlier in the program tonight that are going to try to help us with long-term planning in there, and we've got to do some other things other than paving. Stormwater retention is one of them, and sewer eventually is one of them. But right now, we want to get your roads paved and get the water out of your yards. And I think that's the goal of the board. So we sincerely understand your plight. We really do. So it's not fair to say just because we don't live out there, we don't understand. I go out there regularly. Cleve Fleming knows. I take him out there often with me. And, we commiserate about what to do, and we both wring our hands, and we're not sure what to do. Except this right here is the best plan to get there from here. So, anyway.
No, thank you. Andy? I think Ron mentioned that the CRA, that the past commissioner, talked about borrowing against it. Our plan right now, as my understanding, is to let money build up in it and then use that money to make improvements. We're not.
That's a lot purchase and grant match CRA, not to borrow against, because of the problems of up and down values.
County's done purchase lots out there and give outrageous prices for them. I know of 2 lots that they purchased to get for the station for the sewer and give,
Sorry. No, and ma'am, if you don't mind,
we bought lots there, and we're aware of that. We.
a ridiculous price.
No.
Okay. Thank you, ma'am. And then okay, I think that's me. Jerry or Lynn, do you have anything else you want to say? Commissioner Arts?
Yeah. I too would like to thank staff. I know our Public Works folks, Alan Wise with Preble Ridge, our county administrator, and others have spent innumerable hours working, trying to figure out what the best approach is. And so I appreciate all the time and effort that's been expended trying to help the people who are in this room and the people who are not able to be here right now. I also just want to let everybody know I'm frequently out at Wakulla Gardens. We were carpooling with somebody on Beeler. I drove my son out there every morning. I have one of my best friends lives back on Iroquois, so I'm frequently in Wakulla Gardens, and I feel horribly for the people who live there. It is a disaster, and the people who platted that subdivision back in the 50s and 60s, shame on them. It was a land scam. They never thought houses would be built. They were just trying to make a buck selling these little teeny lots to Yankees who didn't know what they were buying. Well, unfortunately, now real people live there, and it's horrible. The conditions there are horrible. And I want this ballot that you're going to have a chance to vote on or express your opinion on. I just want to spend a little bit of time sharing some of my concerns with you, because you need to be fully informed about what this is the first step toward. And both the proposal, the sewer proposal that Chairman Bridner and that commission worked on, and also this proposal that we're moving forward with, are based on the premise that Wakulla Gardens is fully built out. That has not ever seemed the best goal to me. And I have been working since I came on board in 2008 to try and find a way to prevent that, a different approach. Now, if we move forward, and I'm going to support this because I think people in Wakulla Gardens should have a vote about whether you want the roads paved. But again, I think you need to be fully informed. If we pave over the next few years every single road in Wakulla Gardens, that is going to have a number of consequences. Those lots will be more likely to be developed, and I think we will see development accelerate and more houses be built in Wakulla Gardens. We're going to see more and more people moving into Wakulla Gardens. And right now, just so you know, I tried to do a little bit of math. Right now, there's roughly 1,000 homes. We're approaching 1,000 homes, and I estimated that maybe there are 3,000 people living there now. If this is fully built out, and the range is probably anywhere between, well, there are a couple of ranges, but let's say it increases to 3,000 homes. That would be 9,000 people living in Wakulla Gardens. And when you add that 6,000 additional people to our county's population, that brings us to 36,000. So we have 9,000 people, a quarter of our county's population, living within a few square miles. Now, maybe it won't go that high, but it could. And if you have that many people living in Wakulla Gardens, think about what your traffic is going to be like. A lot of those adults will be trying to get to Tallahassee to work. You'll have 3 times the number of children, so there'll be even more buses. And think about trying to get from one street onto a collector street and then out onto Spring Creek Highway and then on to wherever you're going. It's going to be a mess. It's okay, but I'm just telling you, it's going to get worse. And pretty soon people are going to be talking about we need a 4-lane Spring Creek Highway. Okay, let me just finish going through my concerns.
Your comments to yourselves.
Okay, so traffic is going to be an issue. Something else that that people probably haven't thought about is Wakulla Gardens is going to get really hot. Right now there's a lot of trees out there, but most of those trees are on the undeveloped lots. They're going to be cut down for new homes. Black asphalt, which you know how hot that gets in the summer, is 21 miles of black asphalt is going to be paved very close to your houses. There'll be more and more asphalt roofs. Little shade. It is going to be noticeably hotter in Wakulla Gardens. You're going to be running your air conditioners more, your utility bills are going to go up. I'm concerned about children, because right now these lots are really small, and once all the lots are developed, there's no parks platted or planned with any certainty. You're going to have 3 times as many children. They're going to be playing in the street. They're going to be, when the roads are paved, there will be 3 times the cars, and on asphalt, cars will go even faster. I'm very concerned about the children, and I know there's going to be accidents. I'm concerned about the stormwater, because we aren't fixing the stormwater with this plan. We're going to dig deeper swales. So the road will have 2 really deep ditches beside it. And, will they be able to hold all the stormwater? I don't know. With all the paved roads, 21 miles of paved roads, roofs on almost every lot, where's all that stormwater going? Is it going to sit in those ditches like little moats between the road and your house? And again, I worry about children. And there'll be more flooding. Anybody who lives near houses that have flooded in the past, I think your risk of flooding is going to increase as we move forward, as there's less and less places for water to be absorbed in, fewer trees to slow the water. And there's no sewer lines taking the water away. Everybody who's taking baths, running the dishwasher, running the washing machine, that's getting poured into the groundwater too, into the area around your houses, and then you add rain to it that can't go into the houses or the streets. I'm very concerned. Now, hopefully things will happen fast enough so stormwater ponds and other measures get put in before we start having houses flood. But I think we're going to end up having to buy houses rather than empty lots for stormwater ponds, and that gets expensive. So, my goal from the very beginning has always been to try and find a way to make this subdivision more like the kinds of subdivisions we have other places in the county, where there are some common green spaces and people aren't packed quite so together, and there are trees and they're safe. So I'm still continuing to look for those kind of answers. One thing, if you look at the individual units, and Randy is right about this, and I'm glad to hear that the ballots will be by unit, because I looked at what the build-out is on the different units, and Unit 2 and 4 are 33% built out. So, and if you add in Unit 5, which is 29% built out, the 379 houses roughly in there, or about over 1,100 people that will be helped, we'd only be adding like 628 more houses up thereabouts, or around 1,900 additional people. So maybe those are manageable. I get most concerned with Unit 1, and especially the back part of Unit 1. Unit 1 is, as a total, is only 18% built out. Most of the houses are toward Spring Creek Highway. Once you get past Broken Bow, there are relatively few houses. That part also has no running water. So as septic tanks increase, they're the people who are most likely to get well contamination. So if there's any part of Wakulla Gardens that I would like to say, please don't pave. Let's try and keep this where potentially we could make some big parks where people could walk and kids could play, and there would be lots of trees and shade and whatever. I would, and maybe some stormwater management, whatever. It's that section. Once you pave up and down every single street, you can't have a big park. You can have a little skinny park that couples a few blocks. So what I would like to ask the board is if there is any willingness on this ballot to consider, in addition to having it by unit, to somehow look at the possibility of only paving roads in the more built out, the more populated front half of Unit 1, and let's postpone the back part of Unit 1 for now.
I'm not going to change my motion, Ms. Arts. I think you may find that that's the answer. When it's the vacant lot, they're probably not going to want to pay an assessment if it's a vacant lot. So, I mean, your wishes may come true, but not for the reasons of not having it on there.
Well, the other thing is I also think there needs to be a little more on this survey about that other assessments may be added in the future. This probably isn't going to be the only one.
But Ms. Arch, if we ask them to do another assessment, they'll have to vote on that one too. We can't just go, if I assume we're following 88-1 ordinance, some version of it. In other words, we got to have buy-in from the people in the Wakulla Gardens before, I do for sure. I'm not going to be willing to just assess them unless they agree to the assessment by majority vote. So we can't, if it's $212, we can't just go back and raise it and say, well, we think it should be more. It's $212.
No, I'm not talking about for road. I know there's been discussion about stormwater assessments in the future and probably not by ballot, that would be imposed by the board.
I wouldn't be willing to do that now.
Okay.
I would think any other assessments would also be voluntary.
I'm not going to impose anything on anybody. If the people want to vote for it, that's their choice. But I will never impose anything on the people. It's their choice.
Okay. One other thing I wanted to say. No, I'm not going to remember it. One thing about the lot consolidation, I think it's good to have a deadline, but I guess two concerns. One is I wish that if there are going to be future assessments, that people know about those, because it provides a stronger incentive for them to merge their lots, because once the date's passed, if then an assessment comes along, they've missed the deadline. So I'd also like to explore the possibility, if they miss the deadline, if there isn't some mechanism where on a case-by-case basis they could request and still have some financial benefit, because otherwise it's an incentive until the deadline arrives, but after that you're actually discouraging mergers. And
that's a good point. I mean, maybe we'd put something in there that if you're consolidating them now, it'll apply to this assessment and any future ones. I mean, was that language generic enough?
Well, I mean, there's each assessment, if there are assessments that would come in the future, would stand alone by themselves.
Here's my point. I guess I think what Ms. Arch is trying to say.
We don't know.
Let's say somebody owns two lots together, and they say, okay, well, this $200 assessment, well, I'll just pay for two of them because I got two lots. I might want to sell one in the future. Right. And then 5-10 years later, whatever, they come in and they assess themselves for sewer for whatever reason, and let's say that's $1,000 a piece. There's no plan to do that. I'm just hypothetically
with the new numbers.
But could they then consolidate those two lots together? I think that's her point.
Well, when Heather said that they could consolidate the lots, they'd be responsible for the fees for both lots ongoing, so they'd still have to keep paying.
Well, my point, I guess.
I'm trying to say there should still be a way for them to financially benefit.
But no, they financially benefit because they'd still be paying this fee, but that new fee, they'd only have to pay one.
Okay, so you can do that. Then I'm fine with just leaving it the way it is.
And our hope is that our long-term plan of the 1 cent sales tax on CRA, that will help. But if there's possibilities in the future that, there could be a stormwater assessment to pay for stormwater improvements, we may have to do that. But right now, we're trying to make that long-term plan work over the long term. That's the reason we call it a long-term plan.
Another assessment is not part of our plan.
No, absolutely not.
Okay.
It's not part of the short-term plan.
Or long-term plan.
Okay.
Any further discussion?
I have one more thing. I know that CRA, the CRA is really only going to be very helpful if it has commercial. And I'm not crazy about the idea of having a corridor from Shadeville to 98 where commercial is encouraged along Spring Creek Highway. That's one of our few roads that is currently doesn't have a lot of commercial on it. And if commercial gets built there as part of this CRA, there's going to be even more traffic congestion on Spring Creek Highway. If we can figure if we can figure a CRA, I'd rather see it done more around Wakulla Gardens. And I'd love to see a little bit of commercial in Wakulla Gardens, so that if somebody needs to buy some milk or bread or diapers, there's a little corner store, there's a fire station there, there's maybe a sheriff's substation, maybe there's a child care center, just a little bit so that it makes your community more sustainable, more livable, that people can walk to rather than have to get in their car and drive somewhere. So I do support having some commercial. I'd love to see some of the lots in strategic places in Wakulla Gardens zone commercial even, or certainly nearby, but I don't want to see it all up and down Spring Creek Highway. I just think that would be a real shame.
Maybe I'm completely wrong about this, but a CRA does not have to involve commercial in any way, shape, or form. It simply takes, and Ron Pisecki's point earlier was right on target, that if we had done a CRA several years ago when the values were high, we'd be in a real jam right now. But my understanding of the CRA, as your property values go up, thus your property taxes go up, that increment, that delta, that difference between the two, that's what pays for infrastructure improvements CRA. It has nothing to do with commercial.
And that was
Except
the purpose.
I've kept hearing people say it's important to get commercial in there if we're going to have valuations go up enough to get any money.
No,
Well, the purpose of that was if you capture those two, if there is commercial activity, the citizens of Wakulla Garden gain from that, and that was
There's no plan for that right now because there is no commercial zoning in Wakulla Gardens, of course.
With two quick questions for David/Heather. One, if somebody combines their lot now and then decides to avoid having to pay two fees, and then they decide to split it up in the future, they'd have to pay back the fees?
They would first of all need to get the county's permission to do so, because they would be giving up development rights on one of those lots, and then they would have to pay everything that they escaped through that consolidation.
And then with the concern, what would happen with foreclosures, like is the bank going to be the people who'd be voting on this if it's a bank-owned property? Just a question, and foreclosures?
It's going to go to whoever the record property owner is.
They probably won't respond, so therefore their vote wouldn't count anyway.
I can't get it. Okay. All right, any further discussion?
I just want to make a point that it's 50% of the received ballots, not just the sent out ballots, right, Heather?
50% plus one of what's...
By unit, correct? 50% plus one for each unit.
And we're going to look at it as a total and then break it up by units as well.
Well, I want to be sure that we're on the same page with that. That if Unit 1, if they get 50% plus 1, they're going to proceed even if Units 2, 3, 4, and 5 don't have that, right?
Our initial thought is if the total aggregate comes back at 50 plus 1, we proceed with the program.
Okay.
But if it comes back where it's 49 plus 1, then we break it down into the increments of which ones did that.
Okay.
But if it's 50 plus 1 because you have 2 units who greatly supported it and 3 units who didn't, I don't think it's right to say, well, we're going to pave all the roads when 3 units have told you they don't want it.
That's up to you guys.
And at that point, we'll have to approve it again. So what we're doing is now is going to be a poll, and then we'll have to come back and still vote to actually implement what comes back.
Let's see what comes back.
All right, all in favor?
Aye.
Any opposed? It passes unanimously. Is this the only one? We have one citizen to be heard, and then we'll take a brief break. Jenny Brock?
Jenny Brock, I live at 311 Old Magnolia Road, and I appreciate you letting me speak tonight. The League of Women Voters of Wakulla has invited Barbara Peterson, president of the First Amendment Foundation of Florida, to present a program on public records and sunshine law in Florida. Our President, Mary Cortez, is unavailable to make this announcement as she is in Washington at the FBI Academy for a conference, so she asked me to make the announcement. The presentation will be on Thursday, June 7th at the Wakulla Library at 7 p.m. We of the League would like to invite all commissioners, public officials, especially the public records staff of each constitutional office, our administrator and staff, to the presentation. Additionally, we would like to invite all interested citizens to attend. After the presentation, there will be additional time for questions and comments. The League is a nonpartisan but issue-oriented and believes in open, fair, transparent, and accountable government values which we all share, regardless of who we will be supporting for the selection year. Anyone interested in open and accessible government is invited to attend. Thank you very much.
Thank you so much. We're going to take a 5-minute recess, and we'll come back. Thank you. Well, if everybody will take a seat, we're coming back to order.
Beat that gavel, Alan.
All right, get that. My first time getting to use the gavel. I'm very excited.
To get it where I can get it the next time?
All right. Item number 9 is a request board approval to appoint citizen to the Northwest Florida Transportation Corridor Authority, and that is being led by Ms. Jessica Welch.
I'll take it.
And David Edwards is going to take the lead.
This agenda item requests board select a nominee to represent Wakulla County on the Northwest Florida Transportation Corridor Authority, and approval to submit a letter of recommendation to the governor. The staff sent an email to the BoCC interested parties group, as well as placed it on the county website to seek citizens who may be interested in serving on this authority. The following citizens have expressed an interest in serving on this authority and have submitted a resume or statement of interest. Those citizens are James Parham, Scott Gaby, Robert Seidler, and Diane Delaney. You will need to select one of those so that we can forward that to the governor.
Are there any citizens to speak, Katie?
A motion first.
Yeah. Okay. Do we have a motion?
I'll make a motion to nominate Scott Gaby. I know 2 of the other gentlemen on here. I certainly have no problems with them at all, but I know Scott has lived here all his life, and certainly nothing negative against anybody else.
All right, we have a motion. Do we have a second?
Second.
Okay, we have a motion and a second for Mr. Scott Gaby. Any further discussion? Commissioner Arts, you look like...
Yes, if everybody would take one of those.
Is this it? Oh, sorry.
Yeah. Well, I asked Robert Seidler to apply, and even though his resume doesn't talk much about transportation, he actually used to serve on this group. And when I read some of the things that he was trying to encourage, rail commuter lines, and I just thought that he's pretty visionary, I think, and so I kind of liked putting him back on that group. I also asked Diane Delaney to apply because she has been a major leader with the Big Bend Scenic Byway, which encompasses a lot of 98. She was also a consultant with John Sewell on pedestrian, bike, and waterways master plan. So she's interested a little bit more in tourist-friendly kind of transportation, let's say. So I just thought either of them would be good. I think James Parham looks like Jim Parham looks like he has a lot of relevant experience. I felt pretty good about all of them.
Okay.
I think they basically all are extremely good. Mr. Parham has a world of expertise in this sort of thing. His background is in this. His whole career has been in this. So basically on understanding and having done this before, he was going to be my choice on this.
Well, and I'll say, I know all four of the people who applied for this also, and I have a great deal of respect for all four of them. Mr. Scott Gaby gave me a phone call and asked to have, he's the only one who reached out to me before tonight. So I'm leaning towards Scott Gaby.
Do we need to appoint an alternate, or no?
I think that would be nice.
How much time is going to be spent in this?
If I'm not mistaken, it's once a quarter meeting. That's what we were told.
And Scott said he is going to go to the meetings, right?
Yeah, he did at least to me, he did outreach and said he wanted to go and be on this board.
Good.
I want somebody who's going to be at the meetings and be up front, not afraid to challenge them, represent small county. And I think either Mr. Parham or Scott would do a good job of that. So I'm fine with either of those. I wish we could appoint them both, but we can't. But I'm fine with both.
Okay, any further discussion? All in favor of Scott Gaby, say aye.
Aye.
Aye. All opposed? Passes unanimously. Thank you, everyone who volunteered to do this. Item number 10, request board approval of the proposed potential coastal improvement projects for Wakulla County and approve staff to submit to Florida Department of Environmental Protection for funding. Cherie Keeler?
I'm going to take that for Cherie as well. I'm the front man today. The list of projects that you have in front of you, commissioners, that you scale down, these projects were initially, two of the projects were initially submitted to DEP back in July of 2011, but the project applications were never completed. So therefore, they didn't get on the list for the NERDA funding. So therefore, which is based, the NERDA fund is provided by BP Oil, and BP approves those projects, and it was for direct impact of physical damage to either your dunes, your boat ramps, or something like that occurred during the oil spill, the actual physical damage. So, but there is some monies that are left over in the NERDA funds available through NERDA, and that's the reason that we're submitting these two projects again, along with the applications this time, as well as we've got a number of other projects listed in there that that we're going to be submitting applications for as well that we would like for you to approve. The purpose of this is we understand that NERDA, they will probably fund a portion of either Shell Point Beach restoration and boat ramp or Mashes Sands Beach restoration, as well as all the improvements there for an official park at Mashes Sands. They will more than likely fund one of those two properties to do some sort of improvements or either planning for that. The real purpose for putting these in as well as to the Restore Act that hopefully will be passed here shortly through the Senate, the Senate and the House, and signed by the President. Hopefully, if that is pushed through and approved here in June, then we will be in line for our share of the money, and therefore with these projects already in the DEP, we're a step ahead of most other communities, and we're already in line to begin to be in the process to get some of those funds for some of these projects. At that point in time, once we're told that we can proceed with some of the projects, then we'll have to apply for planning monies and do all the planning work, etc. So it's going to be a process, but if you don't have your place at the table, you're not going to get fed when this thing comes down. All we're trying to do is get a place at the table, and then we're going to do all the final planning, etc. after that.
Okay.
I'm sorry, that was off the agenda, but that's the real world how it is.
All right, do we have a motion?
Can we ask,
Sure.
we need a motion first before we ask questions? Okay.
Make a motion to, to approve the list?
Yeah.
Second.
Let me ask a question real quick on that. I noticed on the attachments, there was like 3 or 4 projects for using this BP money, I guess.
Mm-hmm.
One of them was land acquisition for the St. Mark's National Wildlife Refuge, $30 million or something like that.
They submitted that themselves.
They submitted that themselves, right? That has, so that would not, if any money that we get, it's not going to go to land acquisition for the refuge.
That's outside of it. This is just affects Wakulla County. This is not St. Mark's or Sop Choppy or other. They have to submit their own. This is just for Wakulla County.
Do we need to prioritize these, or you?
Not at this point in time. Currently the two projects that will be prioritized, the way it's in accordance to and speaking with DEP, will be Shell Point and Mashes Sands. Those two will be a priority due to the fact of they were already in the hopper, as well as Mashes Sands being that we leased for $1 for 99 years. We lease it, and it's DEP property, so they consider that a viable source of funding as well.
How much potential money was this? You say it wouldn't...
The numbers that we have heard, the estimates could be as high as, well, the number it gets to keep throwing around is $16 million that Wakulla County would receive. But there's no confirmation of that. I haven't seen the math on that. I've just seen that projected. But things in Washington are happening. Everybody's taking a little handful here and a little handful there, and hopefully by the time and the state's trying to grab a hold of it as well. So we're hoping that the good news is Tim and crew did a really good job last year of making sure that we were involved or organized in the 18 counties that were affected. Is that right, Tim? 18 counties?
8 counties.
8 counties, I'm sorry. And the 8 counties that are direct, we were labeled as a direct impact. So therefore, we're going to get a larger share of the funds than other coastal communities to our east would get.
And did you add sewer to this?
Sewer, if not, it should have been on there, but if it didn't make it, we'll add it to it.
Because when we were over in Gulfport, they used some of this money to improve their sewer along.
Yeah, and that was
so we can use it in
improve some sewer
Live Oak.
at Live Oak Island as well as Panacea needs.
Panacea is
right.
Yeah, it's a disaster.
I'm sorry about that. If it didn't make it on here, I'm sorry. I thought it was on here. That's my fault.
Okay.
We'll add that to that. Any other additions?
Well, I'm pretty confused about this item. We're approving the list of projects on the 9 projects in attachment 3. Is that what we're voting on?
That's right.
Yes.
Because the agenda item only talks about 2.
Right. Well, the agenda item, that just tells you those two were initially submitted.
Commissioners, if I could, it's a complicated process. It's really 2 sources of money we're talking about. You're talking about the NERDA process, which is really the money that BP is putting up front to an early assessment, of the damage, and they've allocated $1 billion so far. We're getting a portion of that as the agenda item outlines. 2 projects were submitted on behalf of Wakulla County for that through DEP, which is Mashes Sands and Shell Point, because we've had feasibility studies down there. We've had all that stuff done, so those were submitted. It's a long, complicated process. It involves DEP. It involves BP. They go through lists of projects to determine where they're going to get the most credit, BP, because, it's not a one-for-one match. The dollars they give for the amount of the project doesn't really match. They're looking for as much credit as they possibly can to make up for the damages that they cost. So it's a long, drawn-out process. That's where I was the last meeting. That's why I couldn't be here to present my item, because me and Sheree were over there learning about this whole process and how convoluted it is. But the other part of the money is what the administrator was talking about, that potentially we could be seeing $16 million. And when that money comes, as well as NERDA projects, when they go through NERDA projects, they're just looking for the cream of the crop. They're looking for good projects they can get a lot of credit on. They skip around. They'll say if they don't see one this time, they might come back to it. So it's better to keep your projects in there. And that way, at some point, they might pluck one out and say, hey, this is something we could do. It's a good project. But we're trying to keep all these projects in there for both processes, so when that money comes, we're ready to go.
And is the criteria for funding a project have more to do with how long it's been in the DEP pipeline, or how effective it is at restoring damage that occurred because of the oil disaster?
Probably more the latter, of how effective it is, or how much benefit it is from the damage. But like I said,
they're looking at what they can get the most bang for the buck out of right now. And as they do that, they'll be going down and probably picking out of the projects as they go through and trying to spend that $1 billion as best they can. So if something this round didn't make it, maybe they'll make it the third round. They went through their first round and you saw what was funded. It was $6 million, mostly going to Escambia County. So hopefully we'll be in the next round or the round after that, but we got to keep the projects in there for us to even consider. So
I understand, but if I was the one handing out money on this, I think our projects aren't very competitive compared to the list of all these other projects, except maybe for 9. Because I look at it as like, oh, here they want oil money so they can, do things that they don't have money for, but don't have anything to do with the oil disaster.
Actually, the Masha Sands is exactly right up their alley according to DEP.
Okay, because we didn't have any oil. The fact that our beaches have eroded doesn't have anything to do with the oil spill. But habitat enhancement and the people at St. Mark's who have been trying to do oyster reefs, and Jack Rudlow, his proposals, and Scott Jackson, who was here and wanting to do shoreline vegetation, and that where you're improving habitat, that because species were lost, that makes us more compelling, and that's what most of my opinion, that's what most of the other projects are.
They're looking for combinations of projects, and Cherie can speak to you a little. She's been, and come on, Cherie.
You got to go up to the podium.
You have to come to the podium so that you can be on television for the viewers at home.
We can't hear you in a meeting by ourselves, so across the table.
On the efforts of this application, like Tim was saying, there are 2 distinct different processes. The first process is the NRDA application, which is the Natural Resource Assessment, and that is more to the point of the oil spill. The reason why the 2 projects for Masha Sands and Shell Point were put in and supported by DEP is because there was some evidence that there had been some beach erosion due to putting out the boom on the beaches. And those 2 projects are supported by DEP, and they are expecting us to put an application in. But we were encouraged, like Tim was alluding to, is to put in all of our projects that are along the coastline that could have been impacted or economically through tourism and other items like that. Because even if you didn't have direct impact, there's the human loss just by the perception of what could have happened in the coastline, and I think we saw that throughout the 8 counties. The Restore Act, which hasn't passed yet, falls under a different federal law. And so the monies under that law are not subject to the OPA federal laws, which are very specific to the point of injury. So when the Restore Act passes, we'll have a lot more leniency and flexibility in funding those projects. But if we don't get on the list for NRDA, then we lower our chances of getting Restore Act money. So we're trying to position ourselves strategically so that when those funds become available, we can move.
Okay.
Does that help?
Thank you.
Make sure that you get the oyster relay, renourishment, redevelopment.
Mm-hmm.
That's like a 10-to-1 return on investment, and it's just one of the very good products that you can absolutely see happening.
And I've looked, and a lot of the other counties have, and DEP for a whole has put in some oyster relay and reef expansion and rehabilitation projects.
That's going to be cool. We have a few citizens.
Throw my 2 cents in real quick on the Shell Point. If we do that, I assume they're going to be pumping sand up on the beach to rebuild.
Very little. That's something we're going to talk to them about. The main focus there is the marina, or the boat ramp.
Buying the boat ramp at Shell Point.
And some dredging work of the canal.
Well, I was going to say, if it is involved pumping sand or whatever, then if we can move the boat canal out a little further, That's all I wanted to just...
Well, the boat canal is or
The channel.
Yeah, the
That's
channel,
on the beach.
yes.
It's pretty close.
The problem is the beach has already got, existing vegetation, and you cover over that, you destroy habitat, et cetera, so we won't get that. But there may be some protection of the tree there that we can do without, doing too much armoring of the beach. So that's what we're going to look at. But the main focus there is a ramp for Shell Point, as there is not a ramp there currently.
Okay.
Good.
We have a few citizens who'd like to speak to this issue. Mr. Victor Lambeau.
Thank you. Vic Lambeau, 272 Pine Lane. I'm a little confused about what I've been hearing here, just what's going to be done. As I read the agenda item, it seemed like you were talking about beach nourishment. And I don't believe the beaches were impacted too much by oil spill, or not at all. And certainly the spill did affect the fishermen, it affected habitat, it affected the economics from people not coming down here buying the fish, so it did hurt the fishermen. If you're going to pump sand in to do beach nourishment, I think that's a terrible thing to do. Beach nourishment is very controversial, but certainly that's not from the spill. That's not helping the fishermen. If anything is going to harm them, you're going to have to hit that sand somewhere. You're destroying habitat. What you should spend this money is to do the oysters, restore the habitat. That is what's going to affect the fishing. We need the wetlands, we need the marsh. That's what they're dependent upon. The fish needs the food, the habitat to grow, so they can be harvested. But certainly we shouldn't be pumping sand. Thank you.
Ms. Jenny Brock.
Jenny Brock, 311 Old Magnolia Road. Again, thank you for allowing me to speak. I was not aware of this agenda item until I got here because I've been away. I just returned from Washington, D.C., where select members of the National Wildlife Federation Board of Directors, the National Wildlife Federation Action Board, and the National Wildlife Federation Endowment Board were invited to meet with White House senior staff to discuss the Restore Act. The Restore Act could be in trouble as some of the House members continue their efforts to attach some very troublesome riders. It is my understanding that the President could refuse to sign if they persist. It is also my understanding that there will be very well-defined parameters attached, so I'm sure you will want to be ready to work within these parameters, since it is our opportunity to participate in the largest restoration project in the history of our country, even larger than the Everglades restoration. So I'm very glad to know that some of us are on task, and we know where we're going, and we're positioning ourselves to be ready to do the right thing with this money. Thank you.
Thank you. Mr. Paul Johnson.
I'd just like to applaud staff for attending the meetings and getting involved in this. It is a very complex issue. I think the two projects that are there are very appropriate. The one thing, and Cherie gave a very good presentation. The natural resources damage assessment is strictly between the trustees, which the state of Florida is involved in, and BP, which is the claimant. Those are the people that did the damages. It covers two things. It covers direct damages from the spill, which we didn't have a drop documented of oil hitting the beach here. However, we did have some documentation, as Commissioner or Administrator Edwards mentioned, of getting ready for the oil to come. There was some damages to habitat type. The beach renourishment, both at Shell Point and at Natchez Sands, will address that. The other component that is addressed by the NERDA funds is loss of use, and we significantly lost use of our natural resources when the spill was here. People were not going to the beaches, fishermen were not going out, so it's very appropriate that the NERDA funds replace and compensate Wakulla County for its loss of use during the time of the spill, and so those funds would do that. The Restore Act was mentioned by a couple of the other speakers, is a total separate pot of money that has to do with the Clean Water Act assessment of damages, and that's a separate pot of money, and you are wise to look at the list of types of restoration type projects that would be involved, and so you're right on track. I'm really glad to see the county is working to get its fair share of those monies. When you get into those Restore Act type of projects, in a sense, it's wide open, and so sewer enhancement projects, particularly Otter Creek, which is somewhat of a coastal area, could come into play there. And I'd be happy to talk to you. I've been involved in this quite a bit as a consultant, so I'd be happy to sit down and talk with you. But again, thanks, and really appreciate your efforts on it.
Thanks. Any further discussion from our board? All in favor?
Aye.
Any opposed? It passed unanimously. Next on our agenda this evening, being led by Mr. Tim Barton, is a request board approval to amend the board workshop calendar.
So moved.
I think there's choices. No?
A motion and a second.
Okay, we have a motion and a second. Okay. All right. All in favor?
Aye.
Excellent. Request board acceptance of the legislative update report. Mr. Tim Barton, welcome back.
Appreciate you stepping down for
I
a moment.
move the weeks.
Second.
We have a motion and a second.
At least I'm getting my exercise.
All in,
He worked hard on this. This is good, really very good report.
Well, like I said, apologize for being out last meeting. I was over in Walton Beach. We were talking NERDA and DEP and BP projects, so couldn't make it back in time for the meeting. But I did want to give just a brief update of where we were with the legislative session, so the board is aware of what happened. As you know, the budget passed. We had a $70 billion budget this year for the state of Florida. The hot topics this year seem to be redistricting, casino gambling. Locally for us, it was closure of possible correctional facilities, and obviously Medicaid was one of the bigger issues. First of all, I just want to give a shout out to everybody that participates in this process. Chris Doohan from the Small County Coalition and his organization, FACT and their group, John Wayne Smith and all the legislative analysts on their team, Heather's firm, Heather herself, and Sarah Blakely from her firm, and just staff here. We all seem to marshal together when there's something threatening Wakulla County, so it's a good team effort that we all put into making sure that you're aware of the issues that are coming up, and we get those issues in front of you so you can get on the phone and call your legislators. Basically, we did pretty good this year. Pretty health harmless, as you know. They seem to be distracted and not focusing too much on hurting the small county, so that was good. Solid waste grants are pretty much untouched. State aid to libraries was pretty minor reduction, but pretty much the same as last year. We saw an increase in SCOP and scrap, which is good, to the tune of about $20 million in total. As far as some other legislative issues or budget items of interest, fiscally constrained offset, saw an $800,000 increase. We saw some small reductions in the half-cent sales tax and no change in a lot of other ones. But Health Department had some overall cuts. I talked to Pat about that. They pretty much held the small counties health harmless, so it really doesn't impact us too much, which is good. He said there might be they can't find some funding for some school aides and some health educators. There could be potential cuts there, but other than that, we're pretty much held our own. Obviously, one of the bigger issues was the talk of having the county take over the health departments. Chris Doohan stopped by our office the other day. He said that's still going to be a concern. It probably will come back up next year, but this year we saved off probably $2 million hit to us in trying to fund those health department, take over the health department. One of the other big issues was the closure of correctional facilities. They closed 7 correctional institutes and 4 work camps. Jefferson CI was on that list. While not in our county, severely impacts our local economy here if they close that facility. So that was a big concern. I want to thank you guys for getting out there and helping us, passing resolutions and letting the governor know that's not a good idea for us. So also they talked about the mandatory septic tank inspection program was repealed. There's a current ordinance that the local government can opt out. That might be something we need to consider. I talked to Pat about that, and pretty much our program mimics that legislation, so I don't know if there's going to be a need for us to opt out, but we can certainly bring that back for discussion. Already talked about the county health departments. The other thing, tangible personal property is on the ballot this year. That's going to reduce another $25,000 for tangible personal property. Actually, it's going to increase it to 50,000 from 25, I'm sorry. So that could be an issue. That could potentially impact our ad valorem seats, not this year, but the following year. Regional planning councils were protected. Workforce boards were protected. Florida Forever grant program received over $8 million in funding, which is good. So we have some projects we can hopefully apply for those. And there was some special funding set aside for innovative strategies for expanding economic activity with DEO. So hopefully that some of those strategies will filter down to us and we can utilize them. Some major disappointments this year, obviously, was Medicaid. Now we've got an automatic allocation going to pay for our Medicaid coming right out of our pockets. So that was something we fought very hard for. We signed up to fight it in court, so hopefully we'll be successful, but that was a major loss this year. County court funding. They're looking at a potential overall 10% reduction, is that right, Greg? 3% this year and another 7% next year. That could potentially lead to layoffs in the court side of the courthouse. So that's a concern for us, obviously. And hopefully it'll be minimized, but we're still looking at that. Unfortunately, another loss was the FERDAP was not funded again this year. That's a grant program we use extensively in this county. But hopefully next year we'll get some funding in there. Anyway, that's kind of...
Move to accept staff's report on 2012 legislative update.
Second.
All right, motion and second. Any further discussion?
I have a discussion on it. Did you mention there was Florida Forever?
Yes.
That, can Wakulla get involved in that?
Yes, absolutely. Yep. That's a good project.
I started Googling because I was trying to figure something out really quick. It's my impression, and correct me if you have a better understanding, that they funded but with a very specific project in mind. Like they're funding it, but there's something like they gave money, but it's doing something. It's not up for grants. It's we're funding this, and it's to buy X.
I'm not sure I can look into that though.
Okay. I was trying to figure that out real quick because I
didn't see that in my report, but I can look into that for you, sure.
So if it isn't, I think we should of course go after it. But
There's a well, okay, I'll get with you on that later. On your opt-out, did that pass, allowing the counties to opt out?
It passed and it has been signed.
Okay, so what do we do to opt out?
You have until January 1 to either modify or implement a inspection program or to opt out by supermajority vote.
Supermajority would be 4 out of 5 of us?
Yes.
Okay.
good thing we have an electronic agenda. I don't know how many pages are in this legislative update. I had to guess. I said.
Well, I kind of gave you the kitchen sink on that one. That's just every bill that went through the legislature. So in case you had one you wanted to look for. You maybe didn't read all of those.
Half of it. I've only been here.
Any additional discussion? All right, all in favor, say aye.
Aye.
Passes unanimously. Thank you. Thank you, Tim. We appreciate that update. Item 17, as an item Mr. County Administrator Dave Evans has brought up, request board direction on tax initiatives. Update us.
Okay. March, what we're looking for is to have direction on tax initiatives that we've discussed in the past. On March 19, 2012, the BoCC adopted the Wakulla 2020 Advisory Committee. The Wakulla 2020 Committee's responsibility is to review and prioritize proposed projects included in the town plan, and I believe Mr. Shuff's going to present those projects at our next meeting. This group has identified a half-cent sales tax that would be available to fund identified transportation projects if approved by referendum. Children's Services Council. On April 12, 2012, the BoCC held a workshop allowing the Children's Services Council to educate the board and the public of their services. Wakulla citizens often express concern for more activities and programs for our youth. One of the major impediments for more activities for youth is funding. One source of the funding was to set up a Children's Services Council special district that would, is a county-wide special district created by county ordinance. If approved by the voters, a property tax can be levied against all properties within the district to fund programs and services that improve the lives of children and their families. During the workshop, the CSC discuss placing a property tax referendum on the ballot to fund such programs. Also, we have the 1 cent sales tax, local option sales tax. This is an existing sales tax which goes to public safety, transportation, and roads, public facilities, and parks and recreation. The county's 1 cent sales tax is scheduled to expire in 2017, and the staff is planning to put this tax on the 2014 ballot for possible renewal. Therefore, we are looking for direction on what to do, how to move forward, as well as Wakulla 2020 is, and CSC is what the rotation needs to be.
You need a motion on it, or just discussion?
Board direction.
I think there'll be a motion when we're done. We can talk for a little while if you want.
I'll just throw mine out there first.
There are two citizens. You want to hear from the two citizens first? I know we normally have a motion, but we can hear from...
You're the chairman.
You'll always get the
Because I talk first.
John Sheff, do you want to... Okay, we'll wait until we make a motion and the citizens will talk.
I'd like to make a motion that we just proceed with the 1 cent sales tax. The children's thing, we talked about it, but I haven't really seen any... I haven't yet seen any community upswell for it. Alan, it was kind of your thing, and I don't know, maybe in the future, but I don't, you know what I mean? I haven't had a chance to talk to Miss Campbell. I think she's out of town with some family issues, but...
Well, do you want me to update you on where that is?
Sure.
Okay, Ms. Birkin gave a presentation on Children's Services Council to the Coalition for Youth, and there was a subset of people who were interested in advocating for that, and so they're setting up a separate group called Wakulla's Youth Are Worth It, or something like that. But what they're kind of waiting on is Ms. Birkin is supposed to give a presentation to the rec board. That meeting was rescheduled, I believe, and so that's coming up on the 29th. And the Community Center Advisory Board is being encouraged to attend that presentation. And those were the three key groups we wanted to get a sense of, do they support it or not. So after May 29th, I'll have a better idea on whether the three groups are kind of behind it. But the WCCY was interested in looking at ballot language and having a spin-off group kind of move with it.
Well, it's kind of hard then, I guess. I don't really know what their buy-in is at this point. I guess we won't. Well, this is supposed to be an initiative from the community, for this. I don't want it to be the board wants you to pay this new tax. I think this needs to come from the community.
I know one of the concerns that was raised was the county attorney wanted direction if we wanted to have her working. Let's say this community's going together, because I was at the Youth Coalition meeting and listened to the presentation, and there seemed to be people who were supportive of it. But again,
people or some people
at the meeting,
you said there seemed to be some people that were supportive of it.
I think the people at the meeting, the majority of them were supportive of it. I don't know that they all were. I think some of them had some questions. But one of the things that if we wanted to have that continue to move forward to try and make the ballot so that the citizens could vote if they wanted this or not, the county attorney's office would need to start working on it fairly soon, which I think is why it's been brought up now. Putting together language, working out how it's going to be, and we'd have to give them direction to start to work with these groups, to work with us, to figure things out, because they can't go from a workshop.
Do we think we may need a little bit more time? Because, this just kind of popped up, and we can, it's certainly not a crisis. It can be done at any primary election or any general election.
Or special election.
I just think we may be rushing just a little bit on the child thing. We need to get people organized and together and get behind it. That's just my opinion.
I have a question. You talked about the renewal of the tax at 214. You mentioned it. Why are we talking about that today in 212 when we're going to renew it in 214?
The purpose of that was to let you know that's when we're going to be putting that on the ballot, so that we can plan around that to either put the half-cent sales tax on this year's ballot, or the couple of years following that, or when to put that. The point is I'm sure as Mr. Shuff can tell you, he's running out of time, as well as to qualify that a little bit. We're going to be meeting with DOT on the 6th, and we could be this plan could change a little bit as far as the half-cent sales tax, but the main thing is we need to be figuring it out, because it doesn't leave much time for the Wakulla 2020 to sell a half-cent sales tax if we don't make up our mind when we're going to put it on the
approving it, or getting it ready to approve so that we have the 1 cent approved for 2014, that's just, it makes sense that we can start, the community can start getting prepared for it, start promoting it. The education can start really early versus having to keep doing things slow. Mike, Commissioner Stewart, did you have something did you have a thought, or no? You don't have to? Okay.
I'm sort of with Randy. Let's move slow with the CSC. I'm a proponent of it. I want to see it done. I'm just not sure that we're ready yet. And I think if we have to have a special ballot, then let's do that next year. It costs more, or wait till the following year. The only thing is, I don't want us to mix that 1 cent sales tax with other taxes and let them be in competition with one another, because we really need that 1 cent sales tax to be extended.
One of the things we could do, we could ask the county attorney's office to start working on the Children's Services Council and start putting something together. And that doesn't mean it's going to come back this fall, but start just getting it together. And what they do now can be used next fall.
If we can get it together, and I'm for letting the public tell us if they want that or not, that CSC. Beyond that, I'm not for the half-cent sales tax. I'm with Randy there that let's move along.
Basically, I agree also. Government is by the people and for the people. And my own opinion is whatever on this, but I will allow the people to have their vote on whatever tax they want to be. They could tax the stars if they wanted to, and that's their right to have their vote on that. But I'm not going to put a tax on it.
I don't. Could you explain that one more time, Commissioner Moore? No? Okay.
I'd like to see I think a lot of the ideas that John and his group have come up with are really good, prioritizing projects and so forth and so on. And I'd like to hold off on the 2020 half cent, because it's so important to how we operate to have that 1 cent sales tax. There's things that you can do with the 1 cent sales tax that are on the 2020 plan that you absolutely cannot do with 2020 half cent. That can only be used for transportation. But 40% of the 1 cent sales tax goes to the library, it goes to the Parks Department, it goes to buy ambulances, it goes to buy Sheriff's Department equipment. So, to me personally, it's not worth the risk of it, because we're asking citizens to approve a tax, basically, is what we're doing. Most voters, good, bad, or whatever, are going to look and say, I just approved a half cent 2 years ago. I'm not going to renew another 1 cent for the same thing. And a lot of the projects do overlap.
Well, I want to touch on two things. One, the citizens have asked us to put this on the ballot to let the citizens make a choice. That's what the half cent wasn't an initiative that we started. That was started by some community leaders who said we think this is a good idea, and I think we've led them to. I think that we've been leading them in the direction that that it should probably end up on the ballot. But I also think that most people have the ability to distinguish, and there's always talk going on about everything that we're doing. So there's a talk in the community right now, but I think that the half cent this cycle isn't going to confuse people for the 1 penny in 2 years. I think people can understand the difference, and I think long as the community's on board, because that is the difference. The 1 cent we're going to be pushing. The 1 cent is us, the board, the Sheriff's Department, the Parks and Rec Board, the library, all these different organizations saying, this is what we use to do this, so we provide you this service.
Explain to me the difference then between the half cent and the 1 cent, if you would.
What's the difference?
Yeah.
Well, the half cent is a citizens initiative to do very specific road projects that are being...
Countywide,
although, well, I'm hesitant to go into conversations because there's always so much talk going on.
But my point
mainly Crawford Highway is where I think the emphasis of that is.
Yes and no. well, it started that way, now it's not so much. It's for transportation projects countywide. All right, what do you use the 60% portion of the 1 cent sales tax for? County transportation projects countywide. So they overlap each other, is my point. And if I, as a vote, John Q. Public, approve this, all right, and then you come back 2 years later and say, we want you to approve this again that does the same thing this does, no, I'm not approving that. I just approved it 2 years ago. I think they're savvy enough to at least understand that.
Okay. I think, and again, and every time I hear, and I get, this is probably the problem with 2020, I'll say, is I've heard it talked about narrow, heard it talked about big, and most recently I've heard people talk about narrowing it again, because they feel like it's gotten too big and there's not enough money to do what they're talking about.
We probably contributed a lot to that, to be honest with you, because we sat here and said we wanted county buy-in, county-wide, and what it's turned into is people advocating, rightfully so, for their project, for their area they're from. So it was zeroed on 319, then we wanted it cast out to get countywide support, and that's what happened. But unfortunately, that led into now a lot of these things overlap a lot, and a lot of the ideas that his group came up with, we could still do with the 1 cent sales tax. Remember, 60% of that 1 cent sales tax is for transportation improvements. It can still be bonded. It can still be used to do dollar match for DOT. If they come up and say, come up with $1 million and we'll 4-lane all the way to Tallahassee, we could bond it and do it.
You expended those things in hope to get a vote to pass it. Without St. Mark's getting some benefit, they will not vote for it. Without Sopchoppy getting some benefit, they will not vote for it.
Well, Sopchoppy gets benefit from 319.
Well, they also think they need to have benefit in any other tax that they're going to be paying. They'll be paying this tax also.
It's just not worth the risk to me.
Panacea will want items also. So to try to pass a tax that the county pays for, that all the citizens of the county pays for, and it just benefits the in-town house plan, it's probably not going to fly. But anyway, you can support the citizens having the right to make the choice.
Okay. So, are you saying that what you would like to do is see, because I'm trying to get us to a motion here, you want to see us do away with the 2020 committee, or just do away with the ability to put a tax in this year?
We're the ones that decide what goes on the ballot. My recommendation, basically, at this point, is to put nothing on the ballot.
Well,
we got the 1 cent coming up in 2 years. I don't want to see the 2020 on there right now because of fear that we won't get the 1 cent passed, and I don't know if we're quite ready for the children's thing.
And I will come back to that one in a second because I have a clarification question for that one also. But so you don't want to see, what do you want to direct the 2020 committee to do? I guess that's my question. Because it exists. We've created this committee. John's given...
I don't know if their work is done at this point. I don't know. He's not asking what we should direct the 2020 committee. He's asking what we should put on the ballot.
But they go hand in glove. We've created a committee to make this go forward.
If we don't move forward with a half cent, then the purpose of the 2020 committee basically
goes away.
As far as, well, no, I think they prioritize countywide projects, which is very good, but could possibly update our infrastructure element in the comp plan with it so we can get grants and so forth. But anyway, that's where I stand. Is
Commissioner Stewart? Same. Okay. Commissioner Arts?
I'm happy to go along with that.
Okay, so we have 3. The second question is, do you want to have us, with the Children's Services Council, do you want to direct the county attorney to try and work with these people who are getting together and organize, or you want them to continue to organize and then come back and ask us for help in the future?
Yes, the latter.
Okay, have them continue to organize and then come back and ask us for help.
Yeah, I think so. Because if there needs to be buy-in from that support, and I want to learn a lot more about this, how much can be used for Parks and Rec. The thing that interested me the most is if the voters pass this, we can use a lot of that to greatly improve our recreation department and possibly save that money from having to use ad valorem taxes to lower them. Exactly. That's what...
You have, well, and Two things on that, just to be clear. I will say one of the concerns that was raised by the Children's Coalition, Youth Coalition, was that they thought we would raise if we put in the Children's Services tax, that we would use it, this new tax, to go to children's programs, and that we would take money we're already spending on children's programs and put it towards something else. They didn't want to see us getting rid of what we're spending on children's programs already.
They want to see more. They want to see it
an
added
investment.
on.
They don't want to see us they don't want to see us do a shell game.
There was a net gain, though. If we're spending $100,000 on children's programs now, and we stop contributing to it, and they get $500,000 for children's programs through this tax, that seems like a winner to me.
I'm just concerned that you're going to hear one way or the other.
I understand.
I really don't want to. I don't want to get into that children's services until I know where the money's going to go.
Well, and again, and for people who haven't paid attention to this or are just at home reading and listening, the Children's Services Council can be up to $500,000 property tax that be voted on by the people to go towards youth services in the county. The people who decide how that money is spent is a committee of 10 people. And we can go and tell that committee what we think they should spend the money on, but that committee, my understanding, decides how it is spent.
If I don't have a vote, if I don't have a strong vote on where that money goes, I don't want any part of it, because I want recreation facilities I want land bought for recreational facilities going forward.
And you have two things you can try and do with it as it's being prepared. As we talked about, the county attorney would have to help with this. One, she can help put some language in it to help direct some of the funds towards youth programming, recreation programming. And secondly, we can help appoint, so that's the easiest way.
I don't think we can get ourselves together enough to get the ballot language we can all agree on.
Well, I don't know that we can.
I'm concerned about the time.
Be honest.
It's the time. Well, that's why it's been brought up tonight. And I wish there had been some more people here from the Youth Coalition to talk about it, but it got added to the agenda late. And they maybe be here the next meeting, much like 2020 came back and talked to us after we discussed them.
I'll go ahead and make a motion here that we have no ballot initiatives this coming up year. I know you've got one you're going to talk about later. I don't know. Second. Not these at this time.
So we have two citizens who want to speak to this, Paul Johnson and then John Schaff.
Paul Johnson, 537 Hickorywood Drive. I'm speaking today as a longtime Chamber of Commerce member, long-time involvement with Wakulla 2020. It's an economic initiative, Randy. It's not a road improvement, it's economics. It's about a downtown Crawfordville. It's about enhancing transportation in this county for economic development. Our chamber is fully supportive and has met with this commission, with your staff, numerous times for over a year now. And you knew full well what this was about and what the outcome was to be on the ballot for 2012. And personally, as a long-time resident of Wakulla County and as a business owner here that's paid a lot of taxes, I'm very disappointed in this discussion and where this commission might be going. It is deja vu of your discussion with Wakulla Gardens, of the direction this commission would go and get citizens, and in this case businesses, involved with expectations to basically at the last minute have the rug pulled out from under you. So I'm very disappointed in the discussion tonight and the direction of your motions. Thank you.
Mr. Schaff.
I tend to agree with Paul on most everything he said about it being an economic initiative. That was one of the main things. The biggest problem we seem to have, or maybe not the biggest. There's several big problems we have, but a huge problem we have is Highway 319 and the development of 319, and it's 20 or 30 years behind development right now. Developing 319 would develop a lot more shopping choices in Crawfordville. Doing that would help keep some of our sales tax dollars down here. If we don't do something to start developing 319, and I think David has found out, and we've been finding out here very recently, that if we don't come to the plate and do something, nothing's going to happen. If Highway 319 something doesn't happen on 319, this is already stifling growth in our county. And that's going to continue. And if you allow that to continue, all boats need to float up at about the same level, the government boat and the private sector, so that your taxes can increase. Every time utilities go up, your power bill goes up. Every time health insurance goes up, your cost, our government's costs go up. And you need to have the revenue coming in from businesses and more people coming into the county to help make the dollars work. If we stifle 319, then we're setting ourselves up for, and y'all were talking about lowering ad valorem taxes later. Well, if we don't do something about 319 and we start stifling growth and y'all's costs start going up, you're going to have to raise ad valorem taxes just to be able to keep up. It's a bitter pill. Any tax done anyway is always a bitter pill, but we've got to keep growing. We just have to do that. I know, Alan just mentioned that we started off with a very narrow focus, and then we wanted to broaden it out, and we blew it out to a full 15-member committee and tried to do what you guys ask, and we are set. We've been working. We have meetings every week. We are very involved in it. This group of citizens does want to see this get on the ballot. And then we're prepared to come before you on the 4th of June with our set of priorities. We've included a lot of the bike ped. Not only are we going to improve the economic development from the aspect of 319, but all over the county. Large portions of your bike ped plan have been included in our plan. Dave and I have talked about pulling in other county projects that get funded by the 0.6 cents to help there, because there's still some funds available from our targeted approach. And one of the aspects that I think we all liked about that target approach was that when we did set this plan up, we would all, then basically the politics would come out of it. You would develop some, authority within our county government, one would hope, that would just, have their marching orders for what projects are going to start. They wouldn't have to come before y'all every time, yeah, do this, yeah, don't do that. We've already decided on that. That was another aspect that was very good about this. So I understand what Randy's saying there. It's a tough decision to make, but you gotta understand the backside if you don't do it. Thank you, John. Can I say one little thing about the shrinking the project back down? Maybe we want to think about this, see how this next meeting works out. This may be something that is palatable to everybody. Okay, thank you, John. Okay.
I think I've said many times that if the 1 cent had 20 years or 25 years in front of it, I probably wouldn't have any problem with this at all.
How long have we got before we got to start doing something with this? What's the drop dead that you need to have to get it on the ballot?
I mean, I think Buddy needs August as your primary, so he needs the language for November, I guess would be right after August, correct?
No, he needs it first week of August, 3 months out. So,
we were hoping for enough time to be able to educate the public.
Thank you.
Still a couple of months.
Can I have...
Commissioner Moore, after the county attorney, then you can speak, sir.
And that it would require you all to adopt an ordinance, which would have to be noticed, so you'd have to push back. You're looking probably your July meeting.
And before let me finish my thought. I've had not one person call me talking up 2020. Not one. So I haven't heard from the public saying that outcry to let's have let us vote on a tax. Taxes aren't real popular right now.
Commissioner Moore, I think you wanted to call Mr. Schuff back up to the mic. John, could you come back to the mic? Commissioner Moore would like you.
Mr. John.
Yeah.
The fact you want to do the 2020 and the county as a whole wants to benefit, or they're not going to vote for it, one way or the other.
Yeah, they are. I mean, it's a citizen initiative to let the citizens decide wherever we decide to take it, and the merits of whatever place we end up at will either sink it or float it.
Basically, in politics today, if you want to be tarred and feathered, you put on a tax. And I don't think most people up here want to be tarred and feathered. What would be wrong if you were to use your 2020 and put it into a CRA and put it into Ms. Art's town plan and just just back it up to that district, and and then we don't have a tax. We get going forward, and away we go.
Well, it's just that doing it that way probably would take 15 or 20 years to be able to start implementing.
Longer.
Longer, or whatever, a long time, longer than we need to be waiting.
Because the issue with the CRA is you have to have an increase in property value, and then you have to bank that. So you have to get that money put aside. It'll take a long time before we have that money. It's good for small projects. It might be able to fund. It's good for small projects. It's great for small projects.
But you don't have to do them all at one time. You do a project and a project and a project. Just don't do them all at the same time.
But getting $1 million is going to take a decade.
You're going to be surprised when you're literally going to be surprised how soon the retail is going to come back. It's not like the housing. There's not there's a surplus of housing. There is no surplus of retail.
I agree with that, but there's some constraints to 319 to be able to develop that retail.
Okay, John. I'm a developer. That's what I do, and I don't see the same thing you see. I truly do not see the same thing. You give me 3 lanes, I don't want 5. I truly, as a developer, I do not want 5 lanes because I can't get my customers out on the road.
We're trying to get 4.
Yeah. Okay. Thank you, John. Any Commissioner Arts? Did you have discussion?
Yeah, because I've struggled. I feel like we kind of led 2020 on a little bit. If we weren't gonna do it, we should have told them right at the beginning. It's interesting when I hear you talk about 319 as a major problem to growth and economic development. I know for myself, because it takes so long to get to Tallahassee, I'm more likely to shop local. Really, even if it's more expensive here, just because it's more convenient. So, I don't know, if we make it easier for people to go to and from Tallahassee, they may be spending more of their money up there than here. It's just it's a flip of what you're saying. I don't know which is right. I don't. But it could work out that way, too.
I'm going to vote against the motion because I do think we've led on the 2020 crowd, but that's okay, because before we made it, I made sure we had 3 votes so we could get a motion. Any further discussion?
My vote will be to allow the citizens to make their choice.
So you're voting against the motion with me, so you're voting no.
The motion is to have no ballot initiatives?
Right, the motion is to have no ballot initiatives. Okay. So you're voting no, so we have 2 votes. Because the goal is to have 3 votes. Commissioner Arts, I think it makes you the swing vote. You're voting yes.
I said I was okay, but
we got to make a decision.
We do. I agree. That's why I tried to get us.
I feel bad enough that we led them along this far. I had to think about it, and the more I thought about it, that 1 cent sales tax, and I publicly apologize that I changed my mind on it, but we got to make a decision. We can't keep doing this.
Well, we did lead them on. I didn't necessarily lead them on because I'd like to see what the projects were. I'd like to have a more definite whatever. But when it all comes down to government, the people have the right to make the choice.
Commissioner Moore, you've confused me again, and I apologize.
Well, I'm going to vote for the people to have the choice to put this on the ballot.
So you want it on the ballot?
I want it on the ballot because I think the people have the right to have the choice.
Okay.
I think they'll make the choice. When it goes on the ballot, you can bet your bottom that they will make the choice.
Are you concerned that if this passes, that it will jeopardize the 1 cent sales tax?
Not really. That's in 214.
Okay. Is there any further discussion? Then I call for the vote.
Aye.
All opposed? Aye.
Aye.
I did not catch the vote for Commissioner Arts or Commissioner Stewart.
Very quiet. You didn't hear it?
I'm not being rude when I say that. But Commissioner Stewart, could you clarify where you voted for us?
I voted with
Andy. Okay. And Commissioner Arts, can you clarify where you voted for us? You're not going to hurt anybody's It's not hurting anyone's feelings. Well, you might be hurting some people's feelings, but...
Well, I'm torn. I like if there's any part of this related to the bike ped, I will support that. If there's, at least letting people vote on that. And with if it's focused truly within the town core, I'm willing to put it on the ballot.
All right, so that's okay, so now we need another motion to bring back something. So could you two give us a motion?
Not me.
One brief clarification, with this failing, there is standing board direction for us
Move
to
forward? Okay.
work, we'll call it, with them and bring, we'll call it 2024. So you technically don't need another motion.
I make a motion to give the citizens the right to vote on this 2020 program.
Does that move forward the children's thing also?
No.
Okay.
The children's thing is not being moved forward. Standing motion still brings us forward, so we're good. We're just going to move on to the next agenda item. Thank you all. I appreciate your time. Commissioner Stewart, I'm excited about this item. Thank you.
Hopefully all of you have had time to read over what I'm suggesting here. This is to help business, and bottom line is to direct staff to develop an ordinance and ballot summary. This is to put something on the ballot for this coming election for an economic development ad valorem tax exemption program. Because we're a charter county, we're able to if the people will empower us to do it by an affirmative vote by them, then we can be empowered to forgive certain tax, ad valorem tax in particular, on both new business and existing businesses that want to expand. And the statute is very clear about the guidelines you have to follow to do that. They have to, it involves so many jobs being created, and so on and so on. They can't use property. In fact, the property is still taxed. It's just the
dirt is taxed, the structures would not.
And the intangible property, I think. So anyway, I'm asking that we move forward with this and allow the people to either empower us to do it or not. I think it's an excellent way to generate business, which is what we so desperately need in Wakulla County, especially good, clean industry. And this is one way to do it. And anyway, so I make a motion that we direct staff to develop an ordinance and ballot summary for the economic development ad valorem tax exemption program and authorize staff to schedule and advertise a public hearing on this matter.
Second. We have a motion and a second. This will need to be on the July meeting's agenda at the latest, again. Okay, cool. Any further discussion from the board? All in favor, say aye.
Aye.
Aye. Passes unanimously. Thank you, Commissioner Stewart. I really appreciate you bringing that forward. This next item is one that I brought up here, and I want to thank the people from Summerwood for their patience. At a past commission meeting, we told the people of Summerwood that if they were willing to turn their property over, we would take over maintenance of it. And meeting with the county attorney on this process, she said we needed a bit more specific board direction now that we have some more details, and we have done that. And I would like a
move that we direct the county attorney to work with Summerwood property owners and public works to take over the roadway and maintenance of Summerwood Road.
Second.
We have a motion and a second. Thank you both. There are some cards if you'd like to hear from the people who've come to speak.
I want to be clear that I told David and Cleve this. I don't want to take this road and then go put a bunch of county taxpayers' dollars, bringing it up to a standard that's above the existing county roads we have right now. I made that clear to David. We go in and maintain it, make it passable. I think we can do that with what we got on the ground there, from what I saw. We'll mow it, maybe pull.
We're hoping that will be the case.
Right. I just want to make that clear, because if we go in and say, you gave us your road, now we're going to go dump a bunch of money into it, how's that going to look to somebody that, say, lives in Wakulla Gardens and says, well, you went over there and spent $50,000 on their road, why don't you spend $50,000 on dust control on my road? And mine's a county road. Or anybody that lives on any county road would have a right to get up here and just raise sand. As So I just want to be clear on that.
I tend to agree. I agree with you on that, Randy. I'm all for accepting that road as long as it doesn't cost us anything. If it costs us money to accept it, then I've told the people in Wakulla Gardens that I would not spend any other dollars that I have anything to do with until we start paving roads in Wakulla Gardens. And this is money that, you know.
They're not making any, they're not paving the road.
Well, it's not any money for anything. If we're spending county money on roads, I want to start paving in Wakulla Gardens. If we can accept Summerwood as it is and not have to spend any money, then I'm for accepting it. You know, I'd like to take care of the road, but I don't want to. I can't spend any money in that acceptance.
The Public Works Department has said there are some minimum costs to get it up to a safety standard of the dirt road quality. Not even less quality than the roads in Wakulla Gardens.
I understand that,
but better than it currently is.
I mean, the expectation, folks, is that it's going to cost something. You can't just...
I understand that.
You can't just say I'm not going to spend a nickel on it, because it's going to cost somebody to go out there on a road grader and grade it.
I agree, 100%. This says if the milling does not work, cost could exceed $50,000 to bring in suitable fill material. That's what I don't want to see.
Okay, then we'll make that part of the motion that we're not going to do that. But don't just say I'm not going to spend a nickel when you know that you...
No, we're not. I'm in the same frame Randy is. As you know, you're talking about the 15,000 or the 50,000. Either one of them, I'm not going to vote for. But if we can accept the road by having the right-of-ways, congratulations to that.
I mean, of course, boom mowing and grading it is cost. That's not what I'm talking about. That's routine road maintenance.
I agree.
I'm talking about capital, spending a bunch of capital money up front on a road that we just accepted.
I have no problem with that. I don't think it should be treated any different than any other road.
That's what I said. That's what I said.
I'll make that part of my motion, that it be included in the road program just like any other road.
You can go to Mysterious Waters, there's rocks everywhere out there.
But for us to, I mean, these folks have been here time and time again, and now I'm not going to step out and lead them astray, having led them astray and tell them now we don't want to do it. I mean that.
No. That's not what I'm saying. I said treat it like every other county road, which means it's maintained to a certain standard with what you have to work with.
And I think that's all they want. I'm not speaking for them, but they're going to get up here and I'm sure and voice their opinion. But I'm hoping that's what I'll hear from them is they don't want to be treated any different than anybody else.
Okay, our Public Works Director has come up. Did you have something you want to say?
I'm just here to answer questions.
Okay. We have.
I put him on the spot.
If you'll sit right here, we will signal you if we would like to hear from you.
Hold on, Cleve. Answer that question if you would, sir. Is it going to be a monetary burden on the county initially to go in there and set it up like any other county road? How much is it going to cost to set it up like any other county road and then treat it the same?
We went out there and looked at the road on a couple occasions lately, once with Commissioner Merritt, and we may be able to pull in enough material that's already at the existing roadway that's over the years has migrated to the sides, maybe be able to pull that in and create a road bed. If we do that, that's going to be very minimal cost. But we also got a layer of rock there, and we may have to go in there and mill some of that rock down to make this work. You know, until we get out there and actually look and put the grader on the ground, we're guessing. We've kicked around in the dirt, we've dug around, and we may be able. We deal with rocks a lot in our road projects. Again, Commissioner Merritt brought up Mysterious Water, but we just don't know. You know, there's trees that we can clear and improve the line of driving through the existing right-of-way there. But we're just going to have to do some experimenting when we get out there, and we do believe that if we bring in a miller, a pavement milling machine we can rent locally, that some of these larger rock formations we can mill down and make the road passable. It's only a mile, and actually we've just discovered we own the first, I guess, 250 foot of roads that we didn't realize was ever dedicated to the county.
I wouldn't pitch a fit if we went in there and spent, something we would normally do on any other road to mill it or whatever we're going to do. But I think you understand my point is, we don't want an inordinate amount of attention paid to this road that's unfair to every other county road in the
If
county.
we get in there and determine, and I'll be working with the county administrator, that if we get in there and we cannot make the project work without, I mean, the other option we have is to bring in lime rock base. And just bring it in and create another dust storm. It would bridge over the rocks, so that's when the cost will go up, because
I would
have to purchase
the primary reason that the residents came to us was due to the bus traffic buses refused to go down there, so we've got to bring it up to where they can at least go down. And also the problem is, by the time we get to where we find out that we can't do it, it's going to be cost prohibitive. We're already on the road.
Okay. Thank you, Cleve.
You understand what I'm saying?
I understand what you're saying, but
you want to speak first or last?
But we got to get it. They're not going to want to turn it over to us unless they can get the bus traffic down there, and we got to do a certain amount to get that.
I would support doing what we need to do to make it passable. And you understand what I'm saying, though? We don't want to treat it differently.
No, we wasn't going there and
county maintain.
No, but I mean, but we got to smooth out the spots where the buses can get in and out, and we can maintain.
Let me put it like this: if the bus people said we're not going to mysterious waters anymore because of the rocks, whatever you would do over there to fix it, I expect would be the same here.
That would
no more is what I'm saying.
Might be able to use the same milling machine and go and take care of mysterious waters as well.
You agree with that? Yeah.
Well, we got it rented.
He's just kidding. He is just kidding.
That was my idea, by the way.
That was Randy Merritt's idea.
Thank you.
Okay. I want to welcome Brett Hammond, who has led this effort and has spent a considerable amount of his own personal funds to get us to the point we can even have this conversation. You have 3 minutes. We may ask you to come back at the end as the person who I'm looking to as the kind of spokesperson for the group right now.
That's fine. I'm Brett Hammond at 306 Summerwood Drive. I want to thank the commission. I want to thank staff. I want to thank Cleve and Brent, as well as all the participants here tonight who live in Summerwood. It has been a long and painful process. I've done this since 2006, started under Brian Langston's tenure prior to Alan. What we are in fact asking for is nothing more, Randy, than what is currently being offered the other roads. The school bus traffic is not coming. I think communities are judged by how they treat the infirm, the elderly, and children. And I don't try to make distinctions between the three. The school buses have stopped coming. All we're asking for, since Summerwood is in fact a major, what I would consider a collector road, I had 3 images, I know she's busy doing some other things, I have 3 images to quickly show you that reflect the mile that we're talking about. The first one is, this is Summerwood Phase 1. I don't know if my pointer doesn't show up. That is Phase 1, and you can in fact see Summerwood as it starts down in the lower right-hand corner. That does not reflect well, but travels a mile up this road from this location. Here, you actually physically, the county owns approximately 200 feet from the end of the pavement at Sharonwood to that point. This projects on it. Summerwood is what I'm asking tonight, and we'll show you further all the way to that point. Could you give me Phase 2? Yes, sir. That one's will work very well for me. So you have it right there. That is Summerwood. Can I have the next slide, please? Excuse me? I can change it here just by pushing.
It's Adobe, not
you have to slide up. You're going to have to go to the next page.
Okay. Summerwood then continues at that point, which is this location where Fallwood becomes that location. And if you give me the next slide. I have currently the current developer, the existing original developer, owns this parcel down. You cannot see the old slide. He's still alive and is willing to convey that portion. And you'll see each of these 3 colors, all of them represent the actual road right-of-way. I attached them to each individual lot so you can see who owns what. That has all been currently, I've had every one of those lots currently title searched, and that actual individual parcel property for each lot legally described. I've spoken to all 16 property owners plus myself. They are all willing to convey, have indicated that to me. I spoke with Heather and Alan about 3 weeks ago. I am willing to assist in any way, fashion, form to continue to get the area conveyed at that time.
May I ask a question?
Ms. Arts, I did try to get Cleve to save that huge beech tree on one of the corners of there. You'd be very proud.
Good. Would you show on the map? Will you show on the map what is actually that the county should have been maintaining?
I actually have it, Ms. Arts. I'm sorry, I almost inserted it. You own 60, the road right-of-ways are 60 feet. Right now, each property owner owns 30 feet to the center line of the road. But you actually have an extension down here, it's my understanding from Brian Plant, the Wakulla title, that when Wakulla County adopted Sharon Woods roads some years back, that section of dirt road became your property. That starts actually at this corner, which is actually where Lori and Tommy Gallimore is sitting in the audience now, where their property picks up.
And this is part of the road that the buses haven't been traveled also?
It is in fact.
Okay, so
It is
see,
in fact.
I don't feel so uncomfortable if we put a little money in on the front end because we've neglected that road that we should have been maintaining.
Only got it 10 years ago. I mean, when Summerwood, well, it's a private road for a private subdivision. And it's not like it's been on the books for many years. And in fact, when we talked with David and Cleve about going ahead and going out and immediately go ahead and start maintaining that first part of the road since the county owns it.
Okay, well, we kind of owe you, I sort of feel like, for at least that part.
Okay, thank you. Each of you will have 3 minutes to speak. You do not need to feel obligated to speak for all 3 minutes, but we welcome you all to come up here and express your thoughts on this issue. Catherine Denmark?
Quite confident, on a side note, that this motion is going to pass.
Followed by Wayne Denmark?
If you don't want to talk, you don't absolutely have to. Thank you.
Don't talk us out of it.
I'd just like to say that I would like those kids not to have to walk through that road coming out in the mornings. It's not fair to them, and when we're leaving for work, it's very difficult to see them when they're walking down the road.
Thank you. Wayne Denmark to be followed by Joe Costello.
First, I'd like to thank you for all the work you've done, and I'd like to say that I'm in full support of this. We drive a Jeep four-wheel drive, and there's times when it's hard to even get it through there. So it'd be really nice if y'all take this for action and make it positive. Thank you.
Joe Costello. William T. Moore. Waves his right to talk. Lamar Allen.
Thank you.
Linda Gary. Curry. Gary?
It's Gary.
Sorry.
Good evening, everyone. I'm glad we had this opportunity to come and express the problems we've been having with someone for a long period of time. I would like to confer the rest of my time with Brett if he wants to continue speaking, but the only thing I'd like to mention is that we really would like just a grading. If it came down to a fill that we needed to do, which we have done in the past, we are willing to donate with our group together, and we can put the fill down. The problem we've been having is just getting someone to go out there grading on a regular basis and pulling the ditches, because we have a turnover of our residents and collecting, and it's all been a volunteer type situation of collecting money on a annual basis. So this would help out a lot, and this would be a regular routine thing, so it wouldn't be just a random thing that we would have a road partial in the year and all of a sudden we really didn't have enough money to make it continuous. So I appreciate it, and I'd like to take most of my time over to Brett.
Thanks. Faye Connell. Okay, Cindy Hightower.
I would just like to say.
Could you come into the microphone to say it? Oh,
She's just saying
no,
thanks.
thanks.
Come on
She
now.
says no talk.
All right.
I have to make notes when people don't talk. Ms. Rhonda Brock.
I am in Fallwood, and anyway, I just really wanted to say how important this is to us, and that I'm in full support of it, and that I really think that it's a public safety issue, a medical safety issue, and a commerce issue. I've had FedEx people tell me that they will not make deliveries out there. Please come and meet them at the hard road. I work, during the week, and that's next to impossible to get my deliveries. And I defer the rest of my my time to Brett. Thank you.
Okay, thank you. That's all the citizens who filled out cards. I told some of you they want to fill out cards, and you said no. I'm just saying. Any further discussion or questions for Brett? All in favor, say aye. Aye.
I just,
Oh, sorry.
I wanted to thank Brett for your leadership and your hard work. I wish every neighborhood had a citizen like you.
Thank you.
I'm going to violate a rule that I have, and due to your hard work, and due to the need, and hopefully, Cleve, you can keep the cost down on this. Don't spend any money on this road, but get the road ready. But because of all your work, I will vote for this.
All right.
So it passes unanimously. Thank you all very much. We appreciate all your hard work.
Jerry.
Yeah, everybody clap for Jerry. Let's keep putting him on. Yeah.
Thank you, Jerry.
Oh, no. You could have voted no.
His signing statement.
Hold on.
I just want to say that the next step then
Yeah.
would be for, I'll work with Brent to prepare deeds, get them signed. Those will all have to come back to you for acceptance before you actually own the road and before work can.
I thought you were going to thank Jerry, too, there.
And thank you, Jerry.
So this is step one. It's not. We will not be fixing your roads tomorrow.
I wanted to make sure we clarified
Step one in
that.
a long time of the process.
That's a lot of hard work. The only reason, if this was, nobody was doing anything, but this, evidently you folks have been working on this forever. This is one of those deals that we've been going on forever.
Commissioner Arts, you have two items.
Yes, they're easy. The first one, I'm asking for a letter of support and for a waiver of match requirements for a grant that the Healing Arts of Wakulla is submitting for a really exciting visual arts project. They're going to hire local photographers to photograph our fishermen at work, and anyway, I think it's an exciting project, so I move that we direct we already have the letter written, that we authorize the chairman to sign the letter of support, which is also requesting a ready match waiver request for Hawks seed funding proposal.
Second. Motion and a second. Any further discussion?
Does it cost us anything?
No.
All in favor?
Aye.
That's unanimously. Thank you. Commissioner Arts, your second item?
Yes, the Wakulla County Coalition for Youth is one of my board appointments, and I try to keep you updated, so their latest minutes are attached, and it updates you about the Children's Services Council presentation and then other topics that were covered at their meeting. So I move that we ratify the updates from the Wakulla County Coalition for Youth.
Second. Motion and a second. All in favor?
Aye.
Passed unanimously. Thank you. County Attorney, do you have any additional items for us this evening?
No.
County Administrator, you have one.
I have one. The OBBT Trail Phase 4 was put on the street last week for bidding, so we should have that back next month, and we'll be awarding it to start in July.
Good. Excellent. Thank you. Discussion items by commissioners. Commissioner Arts.
None.
Commissioner Moore.
I did a auction for the Wild Turkey Federation on Saturday evening. I'm an auctioneer, so if there's any body who in your organization who would like to have a fundraiser, I would be glad to do an auction for you. I'm a little bit shy, but I can do an auction, so.
Shy, you were just dancing.
I don't have any additional items this evening. Commissioner Merritt?
Oh, yeah.
See, I was almost...
I talked to Mayor Marks today when I was at CRTPA, and I'm going to try to get with David and go up there and try to begin a discussion with them about sewer in the Wakulla station area. And I couldn't really talk to him because we were at the meeting. He says they have the capacity there, but they don't want to ask their citizens to pay for sewer lines, you know, in our area, or I don't really know what that meant. But anyway, so I'm going to try to get with him and maybe talk about water and sewer in that area and see if we can get a rapport going again. Getting their water system is what my point is possible. At one time they were going to give it to Wakulla County, and you know, won't hurt to ask.
Maybe start that dialogue.
And I even want to go so far as to just begin discussions about, one day in the future, maybe we could just tie into their sewer plant instead of having to upgrade ours. It already meets AWT standards. We could probably just tie into it and pay a bulk rate rather than building our own plant, and theirs is designed to a much higher standard than ours.
Good idea.
Just something to begin thinking about. And
Before you, there is by the prison, there is a water treatment center that could also be expanded if we ever needed to.
water treatment plant.
Yeah, sewer.
That's that Sonny McNeil Hicks-a-Ditch plant.
I just know it exists.
Yeah.
Also, River Plantation has a sewer system, and I think they would be interested in either expanding theirs or merging with another or
They'd
whatever.
like to give it away, I can assure you of that.
Well, it's my understanding they have pretty good treatment levels.
Well, it's also right next to the Wakulla River, though, so even if it works really good, it's still right there, you know.
Well, I would just involve them in negotiations too on some of
Well, my point is that at least I'd like to sit down and begin talking again, and because at one time everybody got along pretty good. One time, and then the power plant thing came up, and it went downhill pretty bad from there.
That'll work good, because we've already floated this in front of Leon County, and county administrator as well, so it'd be a good time to hit the city, and then maybe we can bring both of them together and come up with something.
They genuinely seemed interested in the springs and the environment, and a lot of the commissioners are bike riders, and they're environmentalists, and so they love it down here. And on the 1 half-cent sales tax thing, since this board has decided to go ahead with the ballot initiative, when are we going to know what projects are going to be on there? Is that part of the presentation? What's the ballot language you're going to say? And we're not going to have control of that half-cent the way the ballot initiative is written now. Is that correct? That it will be 2020 committee's going to control that half-cent sales tax.
Well, my understanding is that the project priorities will be coming back on June 4th.
That's correct.
You won't have ballot language then, because...
When are we going to have the ballot language? Or just a rough draft? Or there's been a lot of talk about this half-cent sales tax thing, and it went from 319 now to countywide, and at some point, this is to fund countywide transportation.
And if we don't have the ballot language by July, no matter how much we support it, it won't make it to.
And I don't think you can use it for pedestrian facilities at all, by the way. It's half-cent sales tax. It's only allowed in charter counties, and it's only for road.
You can do bike lanes.
It's multimodal.
It is multimodal, so you could do walking paths and stuff like that with it. That was the basis of you supporting this one.
I'm done. Commissioner Stewart.
I just want to ask David if you'll would ask Mr. Cerna to come back as soon as we can with some more clarification on these roadside vendors. I'm not sure that we still have a good answer for them.
We don't.
And we need a better answer.
I've been talking to them about that too. There's people, we're going to basically, if we follow down the path we're going, we're going to put people out of business.
Okay, Louis and I talked today, and he knows I'm just sort of making it official that you can bring something back sooner than later, Louis, so we can help these folks.
Okay. I entertain a motion. Thank you. Second?
Second.
All right, we have a motion and a second. All in favor?
Aye.
The meeting is adjourned. Thank you all. Have a great evening. Enjoy your Memorial Day weekend.
No, thank you. We appreciate it.